Is on that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Rick, just go home and take the L. Just take the L. I know those people all want, you're going to beat Bruce, but it's over, man. He's down here now. Stop being such a wuss about it. And nobody gives a shit that you coach the Texas anymore. It's just, good luck. Have a good trip home. Hey, guys, what up? It's JG. I'm the Commodore at auburnsports.com. Some also know me as the publisher at auburnsports.com. It's another beautiful day in central Alabama, made more beautiful by the fact that the Auburn Tigers have defeated the Tennessee Volunteers today by a final tally of 77-72. Some anxious moments, little anxious there during the last, let's say, 45 seconds of that one. But they pulled it off, and as some folks in the chat had reminded me, even though I was there when it happened, that Christian had called this on the rundown earlier in the week. So Christian, our intern, deserves a lot of credit for that. And I do want to give a shout out to Rick Barnes for giving a call into the hotline there as the show was starting. Great for Auburn to get off the schneid a little bit with that W. And we have been talking both here and the bunker. Auburn might be one of the coldest teams in the country coming into that game. Some pretty gnarly performances prior to that. But we knew what the story was. Sharif's out. JP's been out. It's tough to run a team when you don't have a point guard. And we need to talk about their solution to that issue today because it was a stroke of absolute genius. Let's move over to our main page here where we discuss hoops and other things like that. I do want to give a shout out, of course, before we get started to the Canoe Man for super chatting us before we even got on the air. It says, suck it, Bonafide Tiger, we'd be draining. I think Bonafide was making a joke on the bunker about how I was actually playing for Tennessee today since they have a guard who has colored hair like I do. And then anyway, he was just teasing. And then Canoe Man and I just kind of were playing with him about it. So thank you, Canoe Man. You're an absolute badass. I'm going to give you a beat. You and Ryan S. Appreciate you, Ryan. I met at the Huntsville gathering. What was that now? 10 days ago or so? Big dub. Glad to see this team get this win without Sharif. Yeah, that was huge. And a little stroke of genius to get this thing straightened out. Appreciate you, Ryan. What an absolute stud. Let me give you all a sound effect for that one. I love this one. The one from Beat.
Yeah, on Monday, I won't make it on Monday because I have someone calls on Monday.
I got someone calls on Monday. Nobody even knows what he's saying. All right. It's good stuff. Let's see what we got going on here. Man, we got a lot of folks here. What up, y'all? Glad to have you. The stroke of genius that I was discussing earlier, I wonder why our chat box hasn't populated yet. I'm sure it's coming here any minute. There we go. The stroke of genius was to take those administrative responsibilities off of my main man, Al Flanagan, and put that on Jamal Johnson. Neither one of those guys are point guards, and I think if you're looking at just from a skills perspective, you probably would prefer to have Al Flanagan at the point, but he tends to lose his way on the scoring end if he's playing point guard, and he can't kind of meld the person that he actually is to that role very well. And so what they did was they moved Jamal over to the point guard role, and then they let Al kind of do his thing as like the small forward. I guess they would call it wing in this offense. And the beauty of that move is that it freed Al Flanagan, I think. He went in this game unencumbered by the point guard role. He was like, I'm just going out there and playing my game. And then you still got normal production out of Jamal. He goes for 14. I'm talking about Jamal specifically. He goes for 14 points on 3 of 5 shooting, 2 of 3 from 3, 6 of 8 at the free throw line, which is more than normal because he's playing a little bit more than normal. He gives you 3 assists and 1 turnover. Beautiful. I'd give him an A. Like, that's peak Jamal Johnson right there. And then you look at Al Flanagan, 23 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 7 of 11 at the line, 7 boards, 3 assists, 2 turnovers. That's a great game from him, too. So that's a brilliant move. I mean, you'd rather have Sharif regardless, but that worked out really, really well. And right on time, too, because this team was starting to look kind of bad. I mean, you lose at Rupp, although Auburn, I thought, rallied nicely in that game. They got crushed at LSU, beat pretty bad at Florida midweek. You start looking at that game at Alabama. You start thinking, if we don't get this one, it's going to be a rut. And not only did they get this one, I thought they looked great. And there were some defensive lapses, but, honestly, I felt like most of the time when we talk about the defensive lapses from this team, it's kind of a systemic deal. I don't think they buy in as a group. Today, I felt like there was a group buy-in. There were some individual issues, specifically with Stretch. And JT, not as much with the defensive positioning with JT. It was just kind of like lack of awareness for rim protection on the weak side, which is something that's just going to take some time and reps for him. But, and Stretch was just kind of so-so. But I thought the buy-in on the defensive end was good, philosophically speaking. And so that's something that we've been critical of. I mean, you look at that LSU game, they scored 80. They did fine on the scoring end, but you give up 104, and you're like, shit, man, you're going to have to do better than that. I thought they were a little better against Florida, but I thought Florida was better that whole day. And then this situation right here, man, Auburn came out there a little wobbly the first 4 minutes, I thought. But after that, man, I thought they powered through that first half. Just kind of, they weren't shooting very well, but they were still busting their ass on defense. You get to the second half, and they had a nice little run there from about 16 minutes in to about 6 minutes in, where they were just, 20% better than Tennessee, just moving right along. Now, Tennessee's not what they were 2 years ago. Of course, Auburn isn't either, but Tennessee's good, ranked 25. They were, 9-6 in the league or something like that. Probably going to get in the NCAA tournament. I mean, you would imagine. So that's a quality win, absolutely. And, again, some great coaching in that one. I mean, in my opinion. I mean, you make the move with Jamal going to point. You kind of have to sell Jamal on that. And Al did run point some today. But you don't put him out there and say you're going to play 35 minutes of point. He probably played, 10 to 12 minutes of point. And the rest of it playing on the wing. Absolutely brilliant. So Jamal has a really good game. Al Flanagan has a really good game. Some other things that were going on today that I think are worth talking about. Seeing JP on the sidelines. First time he's shown up. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to put him down at all. Just the first time he's been able to be on the sideline comfortably at a game since he got knocked out of the game against Texas A&M almost 2 months ago. So that's huge. Huge. Other things, the traditional center's not so good today, right? So JT kind of plays de facto center a lot when they're playing smaller. And you know what you're getting from him. He had a pretty good day, honestly. 10 points on 4 of 8 shooting, 5 boards, 2 turnovers, 0 assists, which is kind of but we know what we're looking at with JT, right? He's definitely an attack-minded center. He's not really a defensive center, so to speak, and I thought he played fine. But when you go to the traditional centers, I'm talking about Dylan Cardwell, 44, and Stretch Akimbola, 13, you got a little bit of a fall-off. I think they finished with 2 points among them. Let's see, Dylan had the one bucket, the one dunk, and he was talking smack over to the Tennessee sideline about it. And then Stretch goes 0 for 4. So 1 of 5 together, and they give you 9 boards. And you'd like to see more out of them, but I mean, it's minor stuff. I mean, it's stuff we've been seeing all year long. I like the strategy change there in the first half. I thought it seemed like early on their strategy was we're going to kick it and shoot threes all day. Devin really didn't have it from long range. Sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't. Today he was just kind of so-so. He did hit a couple. He had one big one there late in the second half, but in general, what did he go? 2 of 10 from 3. And Tennessee was able to extend its defense knowing that Auburn wasn't even going to try to do anything inside. And then at that point, it makes it really hard to reverse the ball and get clear passing lanes out there unless you extend out to like 30 feet, which you never want to do. So Auburn had to change it a little bit, and I thought they started attacking downhill a little bit more, got the ball inside a little bit more to Stretch, even though he wasn't able to do much. And that kind of tightened Tennessee's defense a little bit and gave Auburn more room to move outside. And Jamal did a nice job with that, kind of distributing the ball around. And I thought Al was really good too. Give those guys really high grades. Turnovers limited. In general, this. If you're looking at one statistic, I think turnovers are the one that limits this team more than anything. And they only have 12 today, which is, if you're a very fastidious team like, say, Temple, 12 is still a lot of turnovers, but for a team like Auburn that probably averages 20-ish per game, that's great. And they really only had one that I can recall in the last 4 minutes. It was when Al beat that double team, kind of lost control, tried to tip it forward, which is not a great idea, and the ball came right back. And they ended up going for an and one when they knocked Jamal over. Even though Andy thought that was a bad call initially, Jamal was moving. So anyway, it seems like turnovers lead to serious problems for Auburn, and it's a good thing that they were able to limit that today. That's big. I think that looking back, that's going to be one of the stats that really sticks out to you in this game. Also from the office of our minutia department, Auburn has never lost on Outlive Day. This was the big day for the Outlive push, something that BP does where he raises money and gives all the money raised to help the families of cancer victims, cancer patients, help them get to the places they need to go, basically just kind of help them keep things going in their life as their loved one is going through cancer treatment, because, man, that's a very abrupt situation that goes on. It can be very expensive. We've seen that at auburnsports.com when one of our heroines, Dee Dee Trudeau, was going through cancer treatment, and the bunker was insanely generous at that point, and she had to get transportation to Houston and transportation to Durham, North Carolina, and the bunker was incredibly willing and generous to help with that. But at that time, I kind of thought about it, man, this is really tough, you know? I mean, Dee Dee has us, and we have her, but what happens to people who don't have that kind of community and that kind of support? And that's where Outlive comes in, and where BP and his wife, Brandy, get involved with that. So very worthwhile cause, in my opinion. And today was Outlive Day. It was the big game. People were encouraged to wear their shirts, and Auburn has never lost on Outlive Day. They're now 6-0 on Outlive Day, and this is 6 in a row against Tennessee, including, of course, the win in the SEC Tournament Championship Final in 2019 when Auburn teabagged Tennessee into oblivion after beating them in the regular season finale. And then the last time Auburn lost to Tennessee was on January 31st, 2017. That was a long time ago.
I want to wrestle you so freaking bad.
How about that? You know that's got to be satisfying for BP. I don't think he harbors any resentment toward Tennessee at this point. Let me rephrase that. I don't think he harbors any resentment toward Tennessee supporters. And I probably think it's over for him anyway, the way he thinks. But I bet he's really stoked about beating Tennessee 6 times in a row. That's awesome, man. Andy was saying on the broadcast that this is the first time Auburn's had a 6-game winning streak against an SEC opponent since South Carolina a number of years ago. And that's really notable, I think, because Tennessee, they're a good basketball program, honestly. Crocosile is in the chat. Crocky dropping a super chat. Absolute badass. What a stud that guy is. He says, let's go. Do I have a sign for you? I'm sure I do. Yeah, anyway, Crocky Poo, you're an absolute stud. Thank you. I really enjoyed you in the game chat today, too. Game thread. We got Ravine in the house, who's an absolute stud, of course. One of our Mount Rushmore people. Says Pearl did a great job getting the team ready to play today. Completely agree. And you wondered a little bit in the Florida game because it wasn't there, man. They didn't fire, you know. And today, different story. They were a little sloppy there in the beginning, but it wasn't because they weren't hustling. They were hustling. Hornatius here, he likes to masquerade behind this awful handle called Love the Cats. He says, always teabagging the balls? Always teabagging? Always teabagging the balls. It's very sad if you're Tennessee. Because you know they're just like, oh, we should be losing to Auburn. But their fans have always been really supportive of BP, and that relationship has always been strong. You know how BP is. He's a fan favorite. He's always going to be a fan favorite. Jeremy H. says, I love Jay Tate. Shoot, man, that's a nice thing to say. Nice thing to say. Appreciate you, Jeremy. Before we get too deep into this show, I got to remind you, of course, we have a bourbon of the day, and I've got a really good one today. I was kind of waiting to use this one until we had a moment to do it, and I think this is one. Because, I mean, listen, guys, I'm impartial, right? I do run an Auburn side. I'm the Commodore of an Auburn show, et cetera, but I don't like Tennessee very much. I'm going to be honest with you. I went to school at Kentucky. I got a graduate degree from University of Kentucky, and at that time I hated Tennessee, and then we came down here. I've been covering Auburn, and I still don't like Tennessee, so it's kind of cool to see them lose. I'm going to pull out some of this Stag Junior right here. This is a product of Buffalo Trace, one of their, I'd say that the actual Stag is the number one, but Stag Junior is really good too, and it's definitely coveted. It is a allocated product in the ABCs. Our friends who live in other states, it may not be allocated there, and you can probably find it a little more easily there. But I'll tell you one thing. I had some of this last night at Taste here in Hampstead, Alabama, and I was like, I need to have this on the show. So, what up? Stag Junior going down the hatch. This is batch 15, by the way. 131.1 proof. Get you that, huh? I think you have to declare, if you were to transport this on an airplane, once you hit 140 proof, I think you have to declare it as hazardous material. So we're just a little bit under. Getting some feedback in here. Canoe Man says Stag Junior nice. It's a good pour. It is stout. This is one of the strongest ones we've had on the show. I feel like Larceny Barrel Proof was a little bit hotter than this. I think it was 134. Now I had this last night. Well, not this bottle, but this is the first tip off this bottle, but I had another bottle last night from Taste, and it's delicious. It reminded me a lot of Weller. If you really like Weller Full Proof, you'll like this too. Boy, it's hot though. God dang. I forgot how hot it is. Ravine says, jealous, JG. Wish I could grab one down here on the panhandle. Shoot. There we go. Let's see. A. Texan says, what's the proof point on that? This is batch 15, 131.1. And as I was looking at it, all the batches have been at least 125, and some of them have been just a hair higher than that, but that's plenty hot. I would probably put a little bit of water on that, honestly. Just a couple drops if I had it in front of me. Let's see. Mobile alum 1991 is listening to the post-game broadcast. Thank you for checking in, bro. Says BP was asked by Andy how it felt to be 6-0 against Tennessee. He said it felt good. He enjoyed his time at Tennessee, had good friends in Tennessee, but he did get fired. That's it. That's exactly it. I told you guys, he loves the fans up there. He loves the people up there. Maybe a little bit of resentment over how it went down. He didn't feel like he had a ton of support from the Tennessee administration, but I'm not sure. I think everybody was in a tough spot there. BP, Tennessee, the conference, et cetera, et cetera. Sam H jumps in with a super chat. What an absolute badass. You're on like every single week, bro, and it's appreciated. He says double the super chat for all the scores in double figures today. Yes, all the starters in double figures, which is unusual. Appreciate that, Sam. Let's see. I'm sure I've got one here for you. I want to wrestle you so freaking bad.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
NBC. Canoeman says, I tried to warn you. Wait, like Weller, Stag Jr. is not weeded, is it? Well, I'm just going by the taste, bro. This tastes like Weller Full Proof to me, which is good. I like Weller Full Proof. I don't love it, but I like it. I probably like this a little bit better. Mobile alum says, when are you going to come to Mobile? As I mentioned on the show and on the bunker, we are going to be doing, we meaning me, not Brian and not Jeffrey, not Christian, but I'm coming down there with special guests to do a show at the Voodoo Wing location there across from South Alabama in Mobile. The plan was to do that on March 5th, which was going to be Friday coming up. But then Auburn scheduled their basketball game for Saturday at noon. So I'm not sure yet exactly how we're going to do that. Administrative assistant would like for us to do the show Friday anyway, and then we would leave early, like 8 a.m. on Saturday and get back up here so I can watch the game and do the show. I would imagine that's what we're going to do. Because when an administrative assistant has an opinion about something we should be doing, we generally just do that. Yeah. I mean, it works better that way. Mobile Alum says, can you reveal special guests? I am hopeful. Well, it's going to be J-Head. And then hopefully we can get Sir Reese DeSmukes on the show as well. And I'd also like to get some of the other bunkerites of note. We have a lot of support in Mobile. Mobile's great. There he is, locked on right there. Another one of our outstanding Mobilians who is on the bunker. Or Mobtownians, I don't know. Who gave me a thumbs down? How dare you? Better not be you, locked on. Or I'm not going to ever give you any more shields. I'm just going to give them the double Ds. Yeah, I would love for folks to come out there and just kind of hang out. I'd love to hang out with you guys and eat wings and drink beer. Or they have bourbon there. They actually have a bar, so probably drink bourbon. Once we lock that in, I'll definitely post it on the bunker. And those of you that I talk to directly, I'll reach out to you. Mobile Alum says, have you listened to Reese's podcast? No, I have not. I know he does one with Kozan, who's that's two of my probably 10 favorite players that I've ever covered at Auburn for very different reasons. Reese, because he's very entertaining. Kozan, because he's super analytical and interesting to talk to and always has a thoughtful opinion on anything you ask him. That's what I love about Alex Kozan. Let's see. Fat Crack jumping in again. Fat Crack is a beast and a half. Super, super supportive of what we do here on the show and also at auburnsports.com. JGT, always good listening to you, and it's always good to soak up a win. Or damn Eagle. It is definitely one of those. Canoeman says, giving Locked On the double Ds. I play Warzone with bunker people only. Those are the only people I play with. And Locked On, who posted earlier, he's from Mobile. And also Double D's. He's a big poster on the bunker. Has a girl with double D's as his avatar. You may remember. He is not in Mobile. He's in Florida somewhere. But I play with those. It's usually the three of us. And then sometimes we play with, AU Milo. And I play with Elite Gus a good amount. And You Wish. Kyle W. with a... That's an old school joke right there, Crocodile. Says, has Kozan signed yet? Someone needs to check the fax machine. If you guys remember, Kozan, when he was being recruited, it was like, is he going to go to Iowa or is he going to go to Auburn? And there was some confusion about it, and he went late. And it was a lot of anxiety. Locked On reminds me that DJ is another player that we play with a lot. Yes, DJ is from Mobile. I think his bunker handle is it's either HK DJ or DJ HK. I can't remember which one. Canoeman says that was really funny, Croc. That was an outstanding bunker reference there on the Alex Kozan thing. Let's see. Mobile Alum says the War Report guys were calling you out a few nights ago in a good way. That's good. I'm glad to get called out in a good way instead of bad. I hope it was from my badass hair. Had something funny happen to me last night. We were hanging out with some new friends at Taste, as I mentioned earlier, and administrative assistant who used to be the PTA president years ago met a girl or ran across a girl who was a parent when my wife was PTA president. And she goes, you just look so familiar. Him? And she points to me and she goes, I feel like I would have remembered him because of this. That was pretty funny, man. Let's see. We've also got some folks saying that they play Warzone, Fat Crack in particular. Locked On says motorboating Double D's does not sound very fun. No, I would not want to motorboat him. I don't think. I'm not even sure if you could motorboat him. I bet you he's kind of scrawny. In fact, I think I've seen a picture of him. Haven't I, Locked On? I don't know. It's weird. I hang out with these guys like 5 nights a week on the internets. And Canoeman says the War Report guys love the Commodore. Believe me, it's two ways there. Particularly with Mike D. Mike G. My bad, Mike G. I communicate with him a good amount, and he. The reason I like those guys so much, and I encourage you guys to watch their show. I love just kind of like their posture and the way. And I don't mean sitting up. You know what I mean? Their professional posture and the way that they kind of present their ideas. They're not out there talking shit about people. They're not trying to have the hottest take. They're just looking at stuff thoughtfully and analytically and breaking it down. I love it. I love it. I told him that. I've been behind him, not since the beginning because they were getting good by the time that I got on, but Love them. Just good guys doing a credible job and trying to do it the right way, man. I absolutely love people like that. Because not everybody's trying to do it the right way. Spoiler alert, guys. Super chat coming through from Stu Pup. I need a special effect for Stu Pup, seriously, because he has super chatted every single show we've ever done. Chicks dig the hair game, Jay. Some do, some don't, but the ones that don't, I don't care about. Because the one downstairs does. And also, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a warning. I'm due to get my hair colored again in like 2 weeks, and we're doing something. We're going to go probably just like full white next time. Canoe Man says the War Report is doing great work. Let's give an applause to that. Croc turned me on to them a while back, and he was spot on. Ravine says started getting into the War Report guys earlier this week. They're having real honest conversations. Love it. I absolutely love it, man. You love to see it. Canoe Man says cough, cough, J-Boy, cough, cough. Hey, I didn't even bring up J-Boy. All right, Jake, of course, is a friend of mine, a friend of the site. Who was an intern with us many years ago. Actually, when I signed on with AuburnSports.com back in 2012, he was the intern here. Or I don't know if he was actually an intern. He was like the young guy coming along, but he ended up leaving us to go coach. And now he's back in the Auburn space doing his show over there at the J-Boy podcast and our J-Boy show. And we love him too. No doubt about it. Kyle W. says, Mohawk, let's go. I mean, I would. I always run it by administrative assistant. She's like, I don't know. We got a super chat coming through again from Fat Crack. Says, JGC, how do I get to play zone with you guys? Would love it. I tell you what, send me a DM on the bunker, and I'll give you my Xbox handle, and we'll just kind of, again, I play Xbox. So I tell you what, if you're using PS5 or you're using PS4 or whatever, or you're on computer, which is actually how Double D's and Locked On play. We can all, obviously in Warzone, we can all play together. Just send me that information on a DM. Again, if you're on Xbox, give me your handle. If you're on one of the other two, send me your, I guess you call that the, whatever, Warzone handle or Activision handle, and then we'll get hooked in and we'll play some, all right? Hornacia says, are you saying, of course, all caps, are you saying the War Report dudes wouldn't ruin a player's commitment announcement? There was some internet, I guess I should say some Twitter fussing going on this week over that, and also I think Jason Caldwell was actually fussing a little bit with Jake as well. I caught the tail end of that. I wasn't sure what was going on. My general rule of thumb is whatever side Jason Caldwell's on is the side I'm on. So Jason Caldwell essentially could do no wrong in my eyes. He's like a brother to me. An older brother, since he's 2 weeks older than me. But B-Matt and Jaylee and I absolutely adore Jason. So nobody better be starting no fights with him. Although, if it is Jake, I mean, you guys know how I feel about Jake, and I tell Jake that all the time. Every time I text with Jake, I tell him I love him, because I really do. Kyle says it was, Crocodile says it was Jason. Yeah, just don't mess with Jason. He's too nice. He's a nice person. Like, if you find yourself fighting with Jason, you need to seriously ask yourself, like, how did I get here and how do I back out of this? Let's see. Scotty P says, we talking AU hoops or video games? I'm confused. We can do both. I do want to give a special shout out to another Scotty. Scotty P obviously is a stud, but Scotty B from Tennessee, who is a Knoxville or was a Knoxville resident, may still be a Knoxville resident, longtime Knoxville resident, who does not like the Vols, but he loves him some Auburn Tigers. I know he's very satisfied and good with this particular result. He mentioned that at the top of the show before I was actually live. But Scotty B, that one's for you, buddy. I know BP is stoked to hook you up there. Corey Dubb in the house, my main man. This is our best Auburn show on the interwebs. Appreciate that sentiment, sir. There's some great ones, though. Was trying to get it hooked up with Corey and his lovely lass the other day, but unfortunately not this weekend. But I'm sure we can do something one of these coming weekends for show. Let's see, Crocodile says, the only thing I didn't like from Jason Caldwell was, he didn't say Caldwell, he's talking about Jason, was that he didn't at the guy he was criticizing. You got to own up to it. Listen, man, you're not trying to say Jason's being cowardly, because he's not. I don't know about the specifics of this situation, honestly, but he's definitely not cowardly. If he did that, it was inadvertent. All right, talking to you hoops. Let's go through and do some letter grades for this performance right here. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but Jamal Johnson for me is an A. He changed his role. I think it was a huge step up. The fact that he's able to slide over, it's like you have to kind of make a decision, right? Somebody's going to have to take a hit from a production standpoint to play point guard because Sharif is a natural born point guard. He can handle it, but he's also out because his ankle's messed up. So somebody's going to jump in there and play 30 minutes of point guard. Who's it going to be? Well, there's two guys that can do it, Al Flanagan or maybe Jamal. So why don't we try, since Flanagan's done it before and it really cuts into his production and mentally, let's try Jamal. Fuck it, why not? And see if we can just leave Allen alone and see what he can do. Well, you see what he can do. 23 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 7 of 11 at the line, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 0 turnovers. No, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, my bad. He had a great game. So that was a stroke of genius, I think, and it's the thing I'll remember most about this particular game, honestly. So Jamal gets an A from me. JT, probably give him a B. Solid on the scoring end. Had some defensive lapses. Again, he's still trying to find his way about how to be an off-ball, weak-side rim protector. He just kind of gets caught watching the ball a little bit. But again, he's supposed to be a high school senior right now. He just needs time in the weight room, and he needs more reps on the floor. He just needs to keep learning. He's going to be a terrific player, I promise you. I think you guys know that, but I'll still promise you anyway. Al Flanagan, so JT, I'll give him a B. Al Flanagan to me is an A+. I'm not going to sit here and say he could do no wrong today, but he got back to being the Al Flanagan that he was 3 months ago. He is a great attacker of the rim. He had some shooting going on today. He was great at the free throw line, and he was a mess for Tennessee. They had a really hard time repelling him, and they never really got a hold of him. And he also had a delicious dish. Second half, driving from his right to his left, dished it over to Dylan Cardwell for the dunk ski. That was pretty sweet. Let's see. So he gets an A+ from me. Devin Cambridge. All right. So shooting-wise, poor. 5 of 17. That's too many shots for him when he's not in one of his hot routes, 2 of 10 from 3. But here's the thing with Devin. You can't fault him too much because he's always busting his ass, right? Like, on a team full of dudes that bust their ass, I think he busts his ass more than anybody. Him and Stretch, I think, are the hardest workers on the team. And he just didn't have it today. So I'm going to give him a C. Some of you guys may be able to say he's worth a D because of his numbers, but he was still busting his ass. He had a good 3 there last 5 minutes or so, and he did miss the 2 free throws that would have iced it, but Al Flanagan ended up doing fine. Whatever. I give him a C. Javon Franklin probably just didn't play enough to judge. 2 minutes. He did get to the free throw line there and missed both of his free throws. So we'll just give him an incomplete today. Chris Moore got 17 minutes, which surprises me. I didn't notice him, but like 5 to 10 maybe. Goes 0 for 1 from the floor, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover. I would still probably give that an incomplete, but 17 minutes, I don't know. You can't really give it an incomplete on that. So I'm going to give him a D. Just really not much of a factor. Leor Berman didn't play enough. Stretch had 8 minutes. Got 7 boards in 8 minutes, so that's not too bad. But 0 for 4 from the floor. Let's give him a C, okay? I'm really getting tired of people in the bunker shitting on him and saying he's the worst player ever. Like, as someone in that thread mentioned, did you not watch basketball before Bruce Pearl got here? Because there were a lot of really bad players, and that is true. To me, and I've said this on this show before, but I'll say it again, I think he's Horace Spencer. Horace had a very valuable role on those teams in 17, 18, 19 for sure. He's not a great scoring end option, but he's a guy who eventually learned to just be a hustle guy, kind of like Dennis Rodman, where you don't run plays for him necessarily, but he's around the ball so much, you might as well let him tip it in or dunk it or whatever. I think that's what Stretch is going to be. And then I actually posted into that thread that Lover of Pearl had posted where he was ragging on Stretch, and I showed that Horace's stat line from his senior year in 2019 is very similar to the stat line that Babatunde's put up this year, and he's a sophomore right now. So I don't think it's fair to rag on him. I think the problem with Stretch is that everybody's, including me, expected more because of his incredible athleticism, that he will be better, not necessarily like as a set shooter or a guy that you would run a lot of stuff for on the offensive end, but maybe in transition he will be better. This is not really a transition team, though. and you just thought there would be a little more polish on the attacking end, and it's not there. I think it's frustrating, but I think he's basically Horace. And if you look at it that way, if you say, hey, he's going to be the next Horace, then you're probably okay with it. One man's opinion. So I would probably give Stretch we'll give him a C- today. Again, 7 rebounds in 8 minutes is not too bad. Preston Cook didn't play enough. He had one shift there, came in. And then Dylan Cardwell, 12 minutes, had the big flush, talked a bunch of junk. Let's see, 2 boards, 3 fouls, 1 assist, 2 turnovers. Probably give him a C. I also want to mention that Stretch did get accredited for an assist today. That is his first assist since the Appalachian State game on whenever that was, December 20, whatever it was. Did I write that down? That was a span of 16 games and at minimum 145 minutes between assists. I don't know if you remember, but back in the 90s, there was this dude that played both at George Washington and later for the Nets in the NBA named Yinka Dare, and I think he had the longest stretch ever in NBA history at the time of minutes without an assist. So Stretch is like the Yinka Dare of Auburn basketball. Scotty P says, long way to go for Stretch to get to Horace. He missed 4 shots at point-blank range. Yeah. Let's see if I can post this graphic here. I actually made a graphic just for this purpose. I may have thrown it away now. I bet I did. I can retrieve it, though. Where are you? You dirty boy. Where would I have put that? Dadgummit. Well, I was going to show you that thing, but I'm going to take the time to find it. It's too pertinent. He's the one who had started a thread here it is. Stretch is one of the worst Division I basketball players I've ever seen. I'm like, geez Louise, man. I've seen way worse. I've seen way worse at Auburn. In the last 15 years. I don't want to name names, of course. All right, here's that graphic I was talking about earlier. So that stat line there at the top is Horace's senior year in 2019. That stat line at the bottom is a Stretch this season. And, I'm not saying they're an exact replica of each other, but they're relatively close. The rebounding is approximately the same. Rebounding rate, I should say. Fouls created per 40 is about the same. Fouls drawn is about the same. Free throw rate, it looks like Stretch gets a few more free throws per minute. Stretch is a little bit worse at the free throw line, but 2-point percentage is better for Stretch, and then 3-point percentage, neither one of those guys should be shooting threes. So to me, that's a reasonably, those guys are relatively similar. Now, I would take Horace as a senior over Stretch right now, but let's just give him a little bit of credit. Stretch is not terrible. I think it's just a matter of he's not playing maybe the role that we thought he would. I'm included in that. I thought he would be a little bit better on the attacking end because he's quick for his size. And he's explosive to the point where he can be a really good finisher on the break, but this team doesn't really break that much is the thing. We've got one of the all-time great student assistants at Auburn jumping in here, a native of Huntsville. I don't know if he's a citizen of Huntsville these days, but John Starnes jumps in to say, those complaining of Stretch, did they forget about Barbie's All-American Rob Chubb? Rob Chubb. Yes, from 2003, 2004, something like that. He was not the most explosive player Auburn's ever had, no. Crocodile reminds us that Horace used to have that terrible baby hook that he would shoot constantly. All right. Let's not give him too much trouble. I am going to turn on the Skype for those who, for anyone who would want to call in. We can also get to BP. I'm sorry, my main man Brian. Although he's covering baseball right now, we can also talk to Christian at some point as well. On this beautiful Saturday afternoon, and I'm coming to you live from Central Alabama, from Montgomery, Alabama, specifically Hampstead. I like to call it Hampstead, Alabama, even though it's not an actual town, but for me it is. It's like a little utopia over here that I live in. I just stay in this utopia. Oh, also news in the J.G. Tate front. got my car destroyed the other day. You guys know how much I love my Camry Hybrid. I was driving on Park Crossing Road at about 7 o'clock, and I had a group of deer run at me. And I avoided two, but did not avoid the third one. And the third one, unfortunately, perished as it crashed into my front third passenger side and demolished my car. Because the Camry hybrids are not necessarily made with the most heavy-duty iron, so it just exploded, basically. I'm hopeful that we can get this thing fixed and back on the road in a few weeks, but the guy who towed it, because it was not operable, it wasn't drivable at that time, was like, hey, buddy, they're going to total this son of a bitch out. I was like, no, I want this car. I love this car. We'll see what happens. If my USA adjuster is watching, please don't total it because I want that car back. And that's my first deer confrontation. I've seen them when I've been driving before, and I've always been like, man, I didn't know deers could do that much damage to a car. Boy, I sure found out. Canoe Man says, kind of like how we need to demolish the like button. Let's get some likes on here, guys. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me improve my stature with YouTube so they don't hate me so much. They send me nasty emails and say, you're the asshole with colored hair. I'm just like, back off. Hornation says, my hair screams Camry Hybrid. I'll give you one of these for that effort. Yeah, I just like hybrids. I would prefer to have an all-electric car, honestly, but I just don't, If I'm going to spend my money on bourbon, I can't spend my money on an electric car, too. And it's not because of any, I'm going to be honest, though. It's not because I'm worried about the environment. It's because I'm worried about saving money. Got to save that money, guys. Valley Tiger says Stretch is fine. He's a 4-year guy that will steadily improve. Now, I'm completely on board with this. I see absolutely no problem with Stretch in a general sense. If we look at him on an individual basis, he has some games where it's amazing to me that a guy that tall and with those kinds of that kind of athleticism, that kind of burst, that kind of jumping ability makes no impact on a game, and he'll do this for like a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time. That does surprise me, and I think that's fair to get on him about it. But from a general perspective, I feel like Stretch is fine. He is. When he came in, when he signed, I thought he was going to be a guy that would help him a lot in transition. This team doesn't really transition that much. So he's kind of in a weird spot. This doesn't really fit him all that well. He's approximately what I expected once I readjusted the expectations. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be an 8th guy. I think he's going to be like Horace was. Luke says, hit a deer. Tiger should have used that one. Hey now. Uh-oh. We've got a super chat coming through from one of our absolute Hall of Famers. D. Lucky, another one of our friends from Huntsville or the Huntsville area, whom I was fortunate enough to meet, about 10, 15 days ago, along with R.M. Schuler and others, including Dob the Bomb and Easterwood. I don't know if E's with us today. Anyway, D. Lucky says he's what up. Says, what up, fam? On the road again. I feel like Jazzy Joe. Drain is great to ride to. I bet you he is on a trip, probably, to watch some basketball. Some youth basketball, I should say. D. Lucky, obviously very supportive of his offspring's athletic pursuits. So, hope you get a dub or dubs today, D. Lucky, or tomorrow, whenever you're going to be playing, whenever the D. Lucky offspring are going to be playing. Awesome to hang out with you the other day. Everything I expected and more, an absolute badass. A guy who can just kind of hold court, He's got stories. He knows shit. I mean, I enjoy this. It's just a little bit hot for me. I wish it was 120 proof instead of 131. Has a great taste to it, and it definitely has that, I like to call it, on the back end, it has that Weller twist, and I don't really know how to describe it. Weller has kind of it's almost like an oak blast at the end, and this definitely has it. So, something to consider. Again, I'm drinking, for those of you who came in a little bit late, excuse me, I'm drinking the Stag Junior that I picked up. And saving that one for a show that I thought was worth it. And since Auburn beat Tennessee for the 6th consecutive time, I thought this would be a good time to break out the Stag Junior. A.E. Robinson says Auburn baseball really sucks. Boy, there's a... that sounded terrible. There's a hot take right there. Let's see how they're doing right now. Let me take a look here. They're down 12-2 in the 7th. They played a great game for like 8 innings yesterday against Oklahoma, and then they just kind of didn't play as well late, and then they gave up. They kind of conceded there in the 10th inning yesterday against Oklahoma and lost 3-2. And in this one, they've just been consistently getting knocked around. It looks like, and they're not really knocking Baylor around too much at all. I don't know much about Baylor. That would be a Brian question. But Auburn's playing in the Round Rock Classic out there in or near Austin, Texas. Playing some really good teams. Again, Oklahoma yesterday, Baylor today, and I think Texas A&M tomorrow. So that'll be good. And for the record, I do not think this Auburn baseball team sucks. I think this Auburn baseball team is going to be really good by the time we get to May. I think that Butch Thompson is an absolute badass. A. Robinson says 33-0 against a terrible team. That's fair enough. I don't really care about what they did against Alabama A&M the other day. But they're going to be good. I can almost guarantee it. Josh D says, any updates on Coop and Powell injuries? Cooper is making progress. I don't know if he's going to. I don't think he's going to play against Alabama. And if he doesn't play against Alabama, I don't think he's going to play against Mississippi State either. Because there's really no reason to risk it. Although you could say he's got 8 months to rehab after this. Why not push it? But as of this moment right now, I'd be surprised if we saw Sharif again this year. As far as JP goes, he was in the arena today. He was on the bench, I guess you'd call it. The way it's set up, it's not really a bench anymore, but he was on the sideline with the team. First time that's happened since he was knocked out of the game against Texas A&M like forever ago when Hector was a pup. So that was really good. He's not going to play this year. That's a wrap for him. My guess is that he'll probably start getting back working out for real maybe this summer. I mean, and you guys, I know that you guys are like, I can't believe this happened. Like, it's an unusual situation with JP, right? I mean, to have an injury, to have a concussion, a brain injury so significant on a basketball court that you would miss 2.5 months. Well, I guess technically more like 2 months of a season and not even practice. You know, I know, man. It's funny to me too. Like I'm surprised also, but I mean, the kid was like in constant. It's almost like I had a friend of mine named Jennifer up in Hoover. Jennifer J, if you would not be watching this, but if you were, you know I love you. She had an aneurysm, an actual aneurysm. Fortunately, when it struck her, her youngest was there and was able to get 911 call and everything ended up being okay. But for a long time, Jennifer had bad headaches, right? I mean, look, man, if you have an aneurysm, you're lucky to get out, period. And so she's happy about that. But she had headaches for like 6 months, like just like a headache that lasted 6 months. Nowadays, it's probably been 3 years ago. She's good now, but that's kind of what JP was going through. He had I don't really want to get into the specifics of his injury, but it was more than a concussion. It was a pretty serious situation, and he had a headache for like a month. And he was having trouble with like loud noises and bright lights, and he was having trouble getting his schoolwork done, and he couldn't run, and he couldn't jog, and it was just unpleasant. He's getting better. He's making progress. He's going to be okay. But this season is definitely out for sure. Daniel M. with a lamp post here says, War Eagle from Round Rock. Are you watching? Are you at the game? Or are you just kind of there? Because you live there. I don't know. Corey Dubs is throwing some burgers, dogs, and Kaneka. Kaneka sausage on the grill. JG, come and get a bite. I got to go out with my mom tonight. I know that sounds lame. You're like, JG, God bless, you're 48 years old. You're going out with your mom on a Saturday night. Well, we turned it up last night. So, although Corey and his lovely lass had first dibs on that, and they weren't able to go last night, but we ended up hanging out with Allison and Jerry, two people that we really like. So, we also really like. Hornacia says, my older brother died of an aneurysm, dead before he hit the floor. Boy, I don't know where to go with that. So I'll just say, man, rest in peace, bro. It's just, that kind of stuff just really weirds me out, man. You know somebody and then they're just gone. Fortunately, Jennifer was good, but I know that in most circumstances, a brain aneurysm like that, it's a wrap. Canoe Man says practice. So anyway, Sharif sustained his injury in practice.
We're not even talking about the game, the actual game, when it matters. We're talking about practice.
TFY says, I heard Kaneka is making hot dogs now. Yummy. That sounds delicious. All right, so what else do we have to talk about on the basketball end? Hornacious adds a tagline to say his brother was 35 at the time. Golly. I'm sorry you lost your bro at that age. I lost my sister at 35. Much different reason. It sucks. I still miss her. I still think about her almost every day. No joke. She's been dead since 2016. Matthew M., Mr. Monson. I won't even tell them what your handle is, but it's really an offensive handle. You don't talk shit or anything. So JJ, I'm late to the party getting my SJ. I should know what SJ means, but anyway, I'll just say that I love you and I think your dog's awesome. Look how cool that dog is. I wish I could have a dog like that. You're late to the party getting your shot. Oh, today's the day, huh? Miss Courtney goes tomorrow for a second shot. I'm so stoked about everybody getting vaccinated. This is going to be great. I can't wait to go and get mine. I gladly would line up to do it. I'm just not quite ready. They're not picking me up yet. Josh D asks a great question, and I really we ought to touch on this a little bit. It says, how good do you think Auburn basketball can be next year? That's a great question, and it's a question that I think we have a lot of trouble answering on the bunker because you've got some people who you've got the BP ball huggers, which I understand why you're doing it. He's a badass. I get it. You got the BP ball huggers who are like, they can do no wrong. Everything's going to be good. Final Four. Kiss my ass, Virginia. You know what I mean? Like that's the way. And I feel like that line of thinking kind of caught on the bunker for obvious reasons, and that's kind of like the general consensus is that Auburn's going to a Final Four next year. Then you've got a couple doom and gloomers that say, the team's going to suck, blah, blah, blah. I guess it's Tony Barbie and his crew, whatever. I'm going to kind of dial back my expectations a little bit, to be honest with you, because I don't know about Sharif. I think he's going to come back, honestly, dude, because his defense is bad and his three-point shooting is really bad. I mean, I wonder if among players under 6'7", if he's going to have the lowest three-point percentage of anyone being considered for the NBA draft. Because he's shooting 22% from three, okay? That's really bad. Like, Horace shot something like that. I mean, seriously. And think about how bad Horace's shot is. I mean, I think Sharif needs to kind of retool his shot. It's super slow. It's a set shot. It just needs a lot of help. It needs a lot of work. I think they're going to have to do that. So I think he'll be back. But I just, there's other questions I have. Like, everybody on this team is going to have to get 25% better than they are right now. Everybody. It means Jamal is going to have to be better. JT, I think he'll get that. Al Flanagan, he's already made a huge step forward. Jalen, I don't know what to say about Jalen. Like, I feel like he has more untapped potential. I feel like he should be better than he is right now, but he's pretty good, right? He's pretty good. He just never, not to say never, you rarely see him in a position, even for a 4 or 5 minute stretch, where he's like the best player out there. Like, he's just absolutely laying the gauntlet down and kicking ass. The way Al does, the way Sharif does. JT has moments like that. let's say Joe Champion always taught me to look at the games in 4-minute segments. So you talk about a segment is 4 minutes, 2 segments is 8 minutes, and 3 segments is 12 minutes. Like you'll see JT have 2 segments where he's really, really good. And Sharif, you'll see where he has like 3 or 4 segments where he's really good. I don't feel like Jalen really puts together segments, you know? He has like a great play or maybe 2 great plays in a row, and then he just kind of disappears. I just would like to see him assert himself more. You know, Devin at this point, Crocodile thinks that Jalen has confidence issues the way Chuma did, which is that's a fair parallel. I think those are 2 guys that have similar kinds of games. You know, stretch fours that definitely can step out and hit threes. Chuma was more of a dogged player, I think. Although Chuma as a person was definitely more low key. You guys would be absolutely amazed. I don't know if you guys feel like you know Chuma, if you saw enough interviews with him to know him, but man, Chuma was one of the most interesting individual people I've ever met, sports or otherwise. He's just so like, hey man, yeah man, how can I help you? Like almost like Ronnie Lamel just chilling. Like, hey man, what's going on? Oh man, I'm just chilling. Man, I just finished watching SpongeBob. I love me Squidward, bro. Just like, and that's the guy that was like killing in the tournament. You know what I mean? Like he gets on the court and he just knew how to burn it up. You know. Anyway, I don't know if Jalen has that ability yet, but he still has time too to just be able to turn it on. I think he's got the requisite skills. I think he could be a dominating player. I think he can, but it's just going to be a mental adjustment, just the way Crocodile was talking about too. Yeah, I think Javon Franklin's going to be gone. I still don't know what to make of Chris Moore. He has moments when he's awesome. He has games like today where it's just not there, but he's still really young. Stretch, we've already talked about him. Dylan Cardwell, I feel like, is a guy that needs to get 50% better next year. I feel like he has huge potential. I feel like he has All-American potential. I really do. I honestly do. I may be the only person outside his family that thinks that, but I'm going to stick with it. I love his fire. I love the fact that he brings it consistently now. I think he's got the skills. He's got the jumping ability. He's got the passion and the fire. I think he's a more refined version of Stretch. They're different physical specimens, but they play the same position. I think they do some of the same things. I think Dylan's better in the half court at this point, and I think he should be better. He should be a 12-point per game guy, I think, if you give him 30 minutes. He doesn't get 30 minutes right now because JT takes a lot of minutes. So you add Jabari and you add Alexander, who's going to be playing 2, and you look, hey, is this a Final Four team? It just takes a lot of projection to get there. But the thing is, Auburn is the youngest team in Division I. And so you've got to give them a lot of benefit of the doubt when it comes to projection. Scotty Peace's great analysis on Jalen. He could be the key between us being good or being great. Yeah, the absolute rock bottom floor for this team next year is good. I mean, they're going to be good. They're going to be a lot better than they are right now, no matter what. So, I mean, worst case scenario for me at this point, 1 year from now, is 10-6 in the league, and they would have a record of whatever it is, 18-12 or something. I don't know. I mean, if they had less than 10 conference wins next year, I would consider that a major, major, major malfunction. So they're going to be at least good. Jalen is probably going to be better, but Jabari's, he's a top 5 player. Like, he's going to be really good, and that's going to be a plus. I'm going to be interested to see how this all works out because Jabari's going to jump in there, and he's going to be going right in the spot where Jalen is. So Jalen's either got to become more of a 3 or become more of a 5, and I don't really know which one of those he's going to go because I don't think he can do the same things that Al Flanagan can. I don't think he's quite the athlete that Al Flanagan is. And I don't think he's quite the athlete that JT Thor is. Frank G says, thoughts on Rick Barnes? I mean, I think he's a good coach. I think his team should have been fighting a little harder today. I felt like they got a little dispirited. But he's good. He's one of the really good coaches in this league. A lot of credit to the SEC in general. 15 years ago, this league had like 3 good coaches. And now you look at somebody, I mean, Jerry Stackhouse is probably not one I'm real fired up about, but everybody else, Ben Howland's probably the next guy, the next lowest guy, and I think he's a pretty good coach. I don't think he's an awesome coach, but I think he's pretty good. Frank Martin's already proven himself. His team's not very good this year, but I love Frank Martin. We all love Frank Martin, particularly bald Frank Martin. You start looking up and down this league, there's a lot of ballers. You know, a lot of ballers. Let's think about this real quick. LSU, Will Wade, I don't know how he has a job. Whatever. Missouri, Conzo Martin. The people on the Missouri board of Power Mizzou have been ragging on me because I always call him Quanzo Martin, and they say that that's incorrectly. I'm saying that incorrectly, so it's Conzo Martin. I like him more as a player than I do a coach, but he's a really cool dude. I don't know how good of a coach he is, though. Ben Howland, I mentioned at Mississippi State. He's pretty good. BP's awesome. Buzz Peterson at Texas A&M. Not sure about him. Buzz Williams, excuse me, of course. Buzz Peterson is the white dude who played at North Carolina with Michael Jordan. My bad. Buzz Williams, jury's still out on him. Isn't it amazing that Texas A&M has not played a game since January 30th? They have not played a conference game since January 26th. Isn't that incredible? They've missed like 8 games in a row. It's insane. Rick Barnes is good. The dude at Georgia, man. He'll always be the guy from Indiana in my mind. I'm not sure about him. Kermit, I really like Kermit at Ole Miss, but the thing about him is he's just kind of old school. He's kind of a yeller and a hellraiser, and I'm not sure that works as well with kids these days. Kind of like the same thing that Rodney Garner faces. Nate Oates is really good at Alabama. Jerry Stackhouse, I don't think he's very good. Musselman at Arkansas is really good. I think he's really good. And I've told this story many times, but Justin and I, back when Hoke was with me, with us, when they were going to hire BP, there were some very some of our wise guys, basketball wise guys, thought that Musselman was the real pick. That might have been before BP became like an ubiquitous possibility, you know, because at that time BP had a show cause and people thought it wasn't going to happen anywhere. People thought Musselman, who was an assistant at the time, somewhere else. That was a great call, by the way. Frank Martin, of course. Mike White at Florida. He's pretty good. And then Calipari at Kentucky, who I think personally has slipped a little bit in my rankings. Like, he's not quite as good as I thought he was. Pocket Watch says, how is that possible with A&M having not played a conference game since late January? Dude, I don't know. It's crazy. They just had a lot of COVID problems. AU Taxman says, Buzz Williams is a clown. Could be, man. I don't know. I don't know much about him, honestly. I'm not going to sit here and give you a big, real, wide-ranging take on him. Backside of Water says Musselman is a great coach at Arkansas. Yeah, I think he's one of those coaches, kind of like BP in a way, where like if he's somebody else's coach, you think he's an idiot, but if he's your coach, you love him. That's how BP is. I think a lot of people look at BP and they think he's an actual clown with like floppy red shoes and a honk horn, which is kind of how Auburn fans look at a lot of other like the way I look at Musselman. I mean, dude running into the locker room a couple weeks ago after that win, has a shirt off, and he's like, you're like, what an idiot. But if he's your coach, it's like, I love that guy. I don't know. Canoe Man gives us thank you for being our fact checker there, Canoe Man. Says ATM, Texas A&M had one game delayed by weather and another 7 by COVID. Brad E says, what's up? I actually referenced you earlier, E, having met you at the Huntsville meetup. I think I'm going back up there maybe in a week or two because Courtney, administrative assistant's got to go back up there for some for a special assignment. So if that happens, I certainly would love to hang out with some folks, although I don't want to pressure anybody to go because y'all just hung out with me like 2 weeks ago. But anyway, would love to go again. E jumps in and says Bruce owns Tennessee. That is correct. 6 in a row. And Tennessee's really hating that. Daniel M., I asked earlier, he said he was in Round Rock, checking in from Round Rock. I asked if he was at the game. He says no, he lives there. All right, bro. Good stuff. That's a really cool area, I think. I've been hearing. I don't live there, of course, but since I went to high school in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I have a lot of friends that have moved eventually down toward Texas, and I have some friends in that area, and they love it. Backside of Water says A&M had 70,000 at their football games. That's why they're having problems. Interesting. I had heard that they were talking about essentially being full at their stadium this coming fall. I sure hope that's true. I hope they're full, and I hope Jordan Hare's full, and I hope everybody's full. I hope that's the case. I do. Mobile Alum says, let's chat football. Okay. I can do that. Let's see what the latest is here. Powell Gordon committing. Solid. That's pretty solid. We also talked about Drayshawn Miller. We talked about him on the rundown as well. I think that's a big get. I think he's a good player, and I think he's going to give them immediate help. But here's my question, and I asked this on the rundown. Brian was with me as well. Jeffrey was with me as well. Like, all right, how many cornerbacks do you need? Like, really? Because you've got Jalen coming back, who's really good. Roger coming back, who's really good. Nehemiah statistically was insane last year for considering what he did on the field when he was out there. He didn't get a ton of snaps, but when he was out there, he was really, really prolific. Lord Tennyson, I'm as high on him as I am on anybody on the defense. I thought he was terrific last year. I think he's a made-to-order nickel, and I think he's going to be really good at that role. Now you're going to add Drayshawn Miller. You've got Kamal Haddon, playing right now, JUCO in Kansas and Independence. He's going to be a guy that's going to come in and expect to play a little bit. So that's 5 legitimate cornerbacks right there. You add in Marco Domio at 6. You going to run the 6th cornerback? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Josh D says, how good do you think Auburn football will be next year? God, it's so hard to predict right now, right? Because I don't know if this staff knows what they're doing or not. Like, some of them I know individually know what they're doing, but right now it's mostly recruiting, right? And I think they've done fine. They kind of did a patchwork job on the end of this class that was mostly Gus and his staff, right? That was not going very well. They closed it out okay. Jeffrey Lee thinks they did a nice job closing it out. It seems to me it was okay. They've added some dudes on the transfer market or the portal, however you want to look at it. Drayshawn Miller is one of them. Dylan Brooks, I think, is a great addition. Just don't expect Dylan Brooks to be awesome right away. He needs development time. He's too thin. He's like the football equivalent of JT. He's got some really good ability, but he's too small right now. Particularly if he's going to be a guy that tries to hold the line and he's going to try to be like a Marlin-type player who can rush a little bit and work against the run, something that Jeffrey Holland never could do. He's going to need to gain like 30 pounds. He's a pretty thin dude. I don't have any doubt that he has the attitude for it and the skills for it, but he needs to be bigger. So that's a really good start on the transfer portal. I still think they got to get at least 1 left tackle, possibly 2, and I'd like to see another quarterback myself because I just don't think that behind Bo Nix, I think you need, our friend Mike G from War Report is big on Demetrius Davis being in there, and I also like Demetrius Davis, but I don't expect a true freshman like that to really challenge Bo Nix. I'd like to see somebody come in here and challenge Bo Nix. I was hoping that the Oregon quarterback would have been a possibility, but ultimately he wanted to go somewhere where he had a better opportunity to start right away. Is someone willing to come in here and actually compete with Bo and feel like they get a fair shot? I mean, that's the question. I think the team next year probably is going to be solid. If we're talking about football, assuming they have a full schedule, a team that wins 8 games. If they're smart, they're going to give Tank Bigsby a lot of carries because that guy is an absolute badass. I think we all know that. Not breaking any news on that front. But you've got to know that. And sometimes I wondered if Gus and them knew that. I mean, it took them, 5 games to really start using him? That's an area where, Auburn doesn't have to feel encumbered by Malzahn's stubbornness on that end, right? Gus was here. How long was he here? 10 years? He took over in 13, made it through the 20s, so 7 or 8 years? Shit, I don't know. He always came into the season with this pre-packaged idea of what his team identity was going to be, and it would take at least 3 games of data going against his preconceived notion to change anything, right? Which resulted in a lot of frustration from you guys, from us that would watch the team. Probably people who are neutral observers were just like, what the hell? It's the equivalent of just banging your head against the wall, right? And eventually he would change it, but it took a while. And the 1 year he's really good here lately was 2017. He was kind of under the impression that he should go ahead and ride carry on, which he did. Ultimately, that was a problem because carry on broke down. I don't think he was meant to be a 25 carry a game guy anyway, but maybe with this staff, with Harsin, with Bobo, maybe you don't have to go through that 3 or 4 game period where you're like, hey, man, maybe we're not exactly what I thought we were. Maybe you don't have to take 4 games to figure that out and reassess what you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then push the good stuff, you know? They figured it out last year. It just took so long. It took them 5 games to figure out that Tank Bigsby was their best running back because Gus loves Shivers. He'd always thought a lot of Shivers, and he kept thinking that guy's going to be a franchise tailback. And, I mean, dude, I like him as much as y'all do. I mean, we all like him. Everybody likes Mighty Mouse. Everybody loves him because he fights hard. He fights hard every minute. I still don't think he's an number 1 tailback. I just don't think he is. Hornatius says War Report made an excellent point. It took him 4 games to figure out what he had because he never practiced 1v1. Interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. That certainly could be part of it. And Canoe Man is on board with that thinking. I wish I had a little football thing to pull up here, but I haven't updated our football stuff lately because football season's not going. And if I pull up the depth charts, they're going to be all messed up. It's going to be a bunch of dudes that aren't there anymore. Yeah, this one will hurt right here. Check this one out. That's how long ago it's been since I've updated the football commits. Because, you know, we've switched over to basketball, but Armani Goodwin, of course, did not sign with Auburn after being committed to Auburn for a while. He ended up going to LSU. And I think that was the guy that Kevin was saying, we're going to flip a guy here. And I think he thought it was going to be Armani Goodwin. And it wasn't. I'm going to take that off the page, though. I wasn't trying to mislead anybody. Corey Dub says you got family coming over. Great show. Look forward to seeing you soon, Jay. Appreciate you, bro. Take care of you and your lovely lass and that great family of yours. Look at Canoe Man. Says enjoy the rest of your weekend at Corey Weber. That's what I'm talking about. Everybody's so nice. You guys are great people. Love it. Love having you guys here. All right, so what else we got to talk about here? Blake R jumping in with that natty. I did not say nappy. I said natty. Natty outfit there. Sorry I'm late. How's it going, JGT? Awesome win today, War Eagle. Absolutely. It's going really well. Everybody's fired up, man. Over a win over Tennessee that is the 6th in a row for Auburn, and a game where they changed their strategy a little bit. Went with Jamal at point guard more often than not and gave Al Flanagan the freedom to play wing like he's supposed to be playing, and he had a great game. J-Head in the hizzle. The legendary insider J-Head says, expect Domino, he means Domio, to play the nickel with Lord Tennyson. Interesting. Ladarius Tennyson, of course, who was a freshman, true freshman last year, essentially started taking away snaps from Tut second half of the season and actually ended up starting after Tut kind of backed out after before the Mississippi State game, I should say. Spread Attack U18 announces that he is here. He is doing the Mick Biggins, has logged on. Thanks for jumping in, J-Head. Frank Jesus' thoughts on SEC overall in basketball, good, bad. I think the SEC is completely, totally bang average in basketball, is my opinion right now. I was going to pull up the Ken Palm on that. I'd be curious to see what Ken Palm thinks about SEC right now, where they rank them. They've got the SEC as the 3rd best conference right now, although it's very close with the ACC, and there's a big chasm. They've got the Big 10 and the Big 12 definitely is the far and away better leagues. Big 10 far and away is the best league right now. Of course, home to Michigan, which is 18-1 right now. I'm kind of fired up. I don't care about Michigan one way or another, but I'm pretty fired up that homie, who's the coach, whose name escapes me, Juwan Howard, of course. I always thought a lot of Juwan Howard. I didn't like the Fab Five, but I thought Juwan Howard was the coolest. Well, Ray King was cool too, but I thought Juwan Howard was the best of the coolest of the Fab Five at Michigan, and I'm glad to see him having some success. After taking over for a coach who was doing a good job, and then it was kind of like, is this guy really going to be able to do it? And he's definitely been able to do it. Illinois has been good. They're playing Wisconsin today. I don't know how that game's going. I don't have it on. That was the big game of the day. Ohio State also in that league, of course. Iowa should be better with Luke Garza playing for them, but it is what it is. Purdue's pretty good this year. Wisconsin's pretty good this year. Then you start sliding down to Rutgers. Maryland's solid-ish. Michigan State's underperformed. Indiana's still okay. So that's a really good league top to bottom. They're number one for sure. So they got SEC third. You look at it, I mean, Alabama's good. Arkansas is good. LSU is up and down, but they're pretty good. That's where you start making – for me, the delineation is between LSU and Florida. So those top three are really good. Florida's depends on the day. Tennessee depends on the day. Ole Miss, now you're into like third tier. I mean, Ole Miss is better than Auburn, but Ole Miss, to me, would not be a team that would fight for like Sweet 16 berth or anything. I mean, Devontae Shuler's a badass, but I don't see a lot else there. Missouri, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about Missouri. They're okay. Kentucky's, they shouldn't be in the tournament. I don't care what they do from this point forward. They shouldn't be there. Still 8-13 right now. And then Mississippi State, Georgia, Auburn, South Carolina, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt is I think it's a down year for the SEC, but let's see. Josh D says, how would you grade Auburn's assistant football coaching hires? I'm willing to take a shot at that. Let me pull this up just so I don't miss anybody and get upset. Brian Harson's the head coach. God, there's going to be so much consternation over this because this is going to be an opinion that you can validate in 5 years, right? You can say, well, that guy's won a lot of games. He beat Alabama 3 times. He's an absolute beat. They had a top 5 recruiting class. Or that guy sucked. He never got within 3 touchdowns of Alabama. I mean, I don't know what to expect right now. And you also got to remember that this hire is a function of the very, very toxic political situation at Auburn right now, right? Because, thank you, Frank, for the update. Illinois is over Wisconsin right now. I don't know if it's over. Oh, it says Illinois up 11. Okay, so it's 58-47 Illini playing at Wisconsin. And the Illini led by Kofi Cockburn, who's an awesome player. Surely one of the 5 best players in college basketball right now, along with Luke Garza. I kind of like seeing Illinois being good again. When I was a kid, WGN used to show DePaul and Illinois games, and I got to where I kind of liked them. And Illinois fans really give a shit. Like, those people care. And they were down for a really long time. They had a nice little run there, 94, 95, 96, of Marcus Liberty and those other cats. But really, they've been down for like the last generation. But it looks like they're picking it back up. I like Brad Underwood. He was the guy at Stephen F. Austin who engineered that awesome win against Shaka Smart when he was at VCU. He went to Oklahoma State. I thought he was lifting them up, and he bounced over to Illinois. He's good. Pocket Watch says Auburn's political situation is always incredibly toxic. Yeah, I made reference to that earlier with the coaching hire. I don't want to speak for Allen, but I think he went way outside the box just to kind of prove a point, and I think he did that. I think he felt like he had an outside-the-box guy who was worth the risk. But we're going to find out. I don't feel comfortable even putting a grade on that. Fortunately, you did not ask me to grade the assistant coach, the regular coaches. You just said assistant coaches. So we'll work our way through. Brad Bedell, tight ends coach, also has worked as an offensive line coach before. Let's give that a B. I like his experience. Mike Bobo, I'm going to go B+ on that one. I'd like to see him recruit a little bit more, but I think he's going to develop quarterbacks at a higher rate, and I would not be surprised at all to see Bo Nix be significantly better next year just because of a change of scenery, so to speak, like just hearing some different things, getting pushed in some different directions, maybe some different things emphasized with him. I think that's a good hire. Nick Eason, love it. I think that's an A-plus hire. He's going to be a lot different than Rodney from a personality perspective. He brings NFL experience both as a player and a coach. He also has a personality that really works well with kids. He can be funny. He's generally a funny, enjoyable dude, but he means business when it's work time. I think he's perfect for that job. Zacchaeus Etheridge from Troy, Alabama, A+. Great recruiter, great coach. He's worked his way up step by step. Humble, serious. Love Zach Etheridge. Will Friend, I like it a lot. He definitely has an eye for talent. I think the problems that Auburn's had at that position, recruiting, where they have skipped too many good players because it didn't fit into what JB wanted. I can't even really the guy that was there last year, I mean, he didn't have enough time, but I think they're taking a big step forward. I think the offensive line just in general is taking a big step forward, especially if they get some left tackles. Derek Mason, I think, is a home run hire. I think the guy's an absolute badass. He's a good recruiter. He's a good coordinator. He's got a toughness about him that I think is going to be infectious with this whole group. I thought Kevin did an awesome job as defensive coordinator at Auburn, honestly. So I don't think Derek Mason's he's not having to fix a lot. And I think it's a perfect situation for him. Jeff Schmedding, that's probably the one that I'm a little bit like wondering about. Not to say that he's bad or anything. It's just that's one that Harsin felt very strongly about, had to come over from Boise, and I just don't know yet. He's going to be the defensive run game coordinator. Okay, so I know who to blame when they give up 400 yards. Burt Watts, somebody that Jay Lee's kind of gotten to know a little bit, comes over from Memphis. Probably an outlier on this group because of just how stern and serious he is. So I like that hire. So Schmedding, let's give Schmedding a C. Burt Watts, let's give him a B-. Carnell Williams, I think, if you're going to keep one dude, that's the dude to keep. If it wasn't going to be T. Will, and it wasn't going to be for various reasons I don't want to get into right now. So Carnell, I'm going to give him a B. Let's give him a B+. Cornelius Williams, to me, is the best. Well, him and Zacchaeus and Bobo and Eason would be in the running for the best hire here. I think Cornelius is a cool dude. I think he's going to get a lot out of his receivers. And I also think he's going to bring attention to the fact that Auburn has not recruited the state very well in the last 5 or 6, 7, 8 years. You have to stop conceding players from the state. You have to stop doing that. And I think Cornelius, while he can't fix that himself, I think he can sound the alarm bells and say, this shit cannot continue. And he's the kind of guy who can do something about it. He's a Birmingham area kid when he grew up. He's been at Troy for a while, recruiting Alabama, specifically Birmingham, and he will bring it. So that's how I'm looking at that. I would give him an A. So A, B, B, C, A, A-, A, B+, C, and then Harsin. Let's see. Oh, my main man, number 19 is in the house. Is Manny Penta, of course, Auburn's outstanding freshman right-hander on the softball team, the ace, well, co-ace maybe. Says she's faced 4 batters so far and has struck them all out. They are facing IUPUI, Indiana University, Purdue University at Indianapolis today, IUPUI. And, yeah, that's good to hear. Blake R says, anyone know if the Diamond Boys lost again today? They were on the verge of losing the last time we checked. Let's see. This is the bottom of the 9th. Currently, Auburn is hitting, but Auburn is down 12-3. And John Samuel Shanker, tight end, who also plays baseball, is pinch hitting right now for Rankin Woley. Auburn just really wasn't in this game very much today. They give 1 in the first, 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth, 4 in the fifth, and 3 in the sixth. So bullpen not getting it done today. That's for sure. Canoe Man says, I guess you're talking about Schmedding. The fact that he was basically the one guy that Harsin felt like he had to bring with him probably bodes well for him. So, yeah, he was his defensive coordinator there at Boise. Now he's like a position coach here, which is fine. That's fair. I think, you move up to the SEC, you take a slight step back. That's fair. Canoe Man says, getting actual quarterback coaching, ... Yep. I think that's something that Auburn was really missing. I think that's something that Bo Nix was missing. People have been hard on Bo Nix. I have as well. I thought that he took a step back last year, but I don't want to blame him too much because, I don't know what kind of coaching he was getting specific to the position, right? I don't think Gus is a bad coach. I just wonder a little bit about Gus's ability to coax the most out of his quarterbacks because they really didn't do much of that except for Cam Newton, who was a generational talent. He's just an insanely talented player. And I, to this point in my life, would say that he had the greatest single season in the history of college football. Like him, just the 1 year. Is he a better player than Tim Tebow in college? That's a tough call. I don't know the answer to that. Tim Tebow did a lot of great stuff, and there's been other players too. And don't sleep on my man at SMU back in the day, Eric Dickerson. That guy was a bad man. But I thought it was the best single season performance in the history of college football with Cam Newton in 2010. And I mean, Gus deserves credit for that because despite all the other bullshit, a lot of people want to say that Gene Chizik is responsible for that. Dude, Gus had to override Gene to get Cam signed. I'll go to the grave with that. That's how it went down. And if anybody tells you any different, they're full of shit. You heard it here first and last. Frank G says you could say Auburn hasn't had a true quarterback coach since 2008. It might have been that long, bro. Solo Tiger says 2010 Cam is the single most dominant college football player I've ever seen. I mean, I just don't know if you'll see somebody like that. You probably will someday, right? But the skill that made him such a generational talent. I mean, he was going to be good either way, but his third down conversions. I mean, imagine having a card, right? Anytime that your team is in a 3rd and 4 or shorter, you just pull the card and you give it to the ref, and it's first down. And you've got a freaking stack. You've got like a stack. And it says Cam for 5, Cam for 4, Cam for 13, Cam for 8 plus 2 after the tackle. First down, first down, first down, first down. He just trucked your middle linebacker. He just trucked your cornerback and your safety together. He just ran over half your freaking defense. He tripped and fell and still knocked your ass backwards, and he got 5 yards. I mean, it was like that all year long. You guys remember, you were there. You saw it. Solo Tiger says Cole Kubelik, friend of the show, just general stud, tweeted the other day that there was not another player from the 2010 team who has had a carry or reception in the NFL, and the only offensive line to get a start did so because of injury. Interesting. Love the Cat says Chris Todd had one of the greatest AEU quarterback seasons. He actually was pretty damn good in that 2009 year. I mean, considering what he was dealing with, he was dealing with a grade 3 shoulder separation, which means he had multiple tears in his shoulder. I mean, the guy he's a bad man just to get where he got, honestly. Because I'm telling you guys, you never got to see it. I got to see it a little bit on tape because he was from Elizabethtown, Kentucky when he was in high school. The guy was insanely good. He had incredible arm talent. And it was weird that when he got to Auburn, his arm was so shot that he was actually having to use his head more than his arm. Blake R says Nick Fairley also combined with Cam is what led to the national championship. Absolutely, Nick Fairley played a big role in that. He was a nasty, nasty, nasty player. A cool dude, actually, in real life, but a nasty player. I don't mean dirty. He was just nasty. He didn't care. He wasn't out there to preserve anybody's feelings. He wasn't there to help other players up and tell them good job and pat them on the ass. He was out there to dominate football games and embarrass people, and he did a lot of that. He did a lot of both of those things. And I think they should retire the 90 if they can, but, whatever. It's not my choice. If you're going to retire Cam's number, you need to retire Nick's, too. And I also want to remind you guys, for you young people or you people who are my age and you forgot, that he was kind of an afterthought in the recruiting game in the beginning out of Mobile. He was kind of like a tight end type dude. And he ended up going to junior college, and he kind of made the move to defensive line. He came back to Auburn. His first year, he was mediocre at best. Second season, he was an All-American type player. It just shows you, man, it takes some time for the switch to flick for some guys. Brad Easterwood jumping in for some respect, to put some respect on Josh Bynes' name as well. Josh Bynes and Craig Stevens will always have my respect for the way they played in that Orlando Bowl at the end of the 2009 season against Northwestern. The Sumbitches did not come out of the game in an overtime game. As I recall, they played 109 snaps. It's not even like possible. I mean, it's like a number that you wouldn't even think is possible. Yeah, man, I knew a guy who played every snap in an overtime game one time. No shit. Like what? You mean in junior high? But no. Played at Auburn. They didn't have anybody behind him? No. He was fucking good. And he didn't want to come out of the game because he had a lot of pride in his work. Josh Bynes. I don't think I give him enough credit as one of the guys that I love talking to as well. I mentioned earlier that Alex Kozan and my main man from Spanish Fort, dadgummit, the center. Name escapes me right now. I was just talking about him earlier. Reese and Kozan are two of my favorites forever talking to players. But, man, Josh Bynes was always so agreeable and friendly. And also, you got to give credit to Craig Stevens, too, because I remember that was back in the day when you could just talk to whoever. Like, if I was a reporter showing up and Kirk would say, who do you want? And I could have, like, shit, I got 8 guys. I got blank, blank, blank. And they would get them all. They don't do that anymore, but they did it at the time. Craig Stevens got called up there one time, and 2 beat writers, I'm going to leave the names out of this, 2 beat writers started getting into a fight. Not an actual physical fight, but they were, like, yelling at each other, like, during an interview with Craig Stevens. And he took it with great humor. I'm not sure that I would have if I was in his position. I think I'd have just gotten up and walked the hell out and said, like, if you guys can't act like regular professionals, I am out, and I am absolutely done with this because I don't have time for this. But instead, he just sat there and kind of let them simmer down eventually and figure out their BS fighting. Sitting there yelling at each other in front of a kid about questions and stuff. No, don't do that. And I like both of the guys that were involved, and I don't mean to be – that's why I'm not going to say their names, but that was stupid. Number 19 had picked me up on that Reese Dismukes thing. Yeah, I appreciate you, bud. I kind of had a brain fart there. Reese Dismukes is exactly the guy I was talking about. I had his picture. Let me see if I still have it here. For so long, there was a person on the bunker that kept posting the picture of Reese when he was the day he committed in high school. And it had a picture of Reese with a do-rag on, and it said, I'm sorry for partying or something like that. And I finally found the picture. It doesn't have the I'm sorry for partying on it yet, but I found the picture. And now I can't find it. Dadgummit. I don't know what I would have named it either. Oh, here it is. This is the picture. That's the day Reese committed to play at Auburn when he was at Spanish Fort High School. I love the do-rag. It's just like so Reese, too, you know. I bet you that's Brian's recorder, too. He's poking in there. And someone to post a meme on the bunker that says, I'm sorry for partying. I want to recreate that because I never could find it again. Anyway, we love Reese. Chris M. Let's see. Jay Olive Sr. says, appreciate you, Jay, for letting me out of Chile. Yeah, man, I only set that up for like 2 or 3 days. I mean, I wasn't very happy with what you had posted, but come on, man. We'll let it go. It wasn't that big of a deal. Well, like you were trying to out people or doing some really dirty, nasty stuff. And again, number 19 notes that Matty Penta, Auburn's outstanding freshman right-hander, has faced 8 batters and struck out 8 batters. So she's on par for like 8,000 strikeouts and 8,000 at-bats, which would be pretty good. He is updated now to say that it's now 9 up, 9 down, all by strikeout. I think it's probably fair to say that Maddie Penna might be a little bit better than Ooey Pooey today, but we're about to find out. I was telling my wife earlier, when you take – I know we're talking about softball here real quick, but and I don't know how many softball fans there are out there, but I'm one, and Chris M is one as well. It seems like college softball is you're never going to get to the top level unless you've got a really good starter, right? Because when Auburn got to the College World Series, they had Kaylee Carlson and Michaela. Kaylee was probably a little better than Michaela, although Michaela was good. But that's the reason they were able to get there. Now, they had Tiffany and they had all the other great hitters. I mean, Emily and Casey and all of them that helped them score runs. But you can score a lot of runs, but if you don't have that ace pitcher, you're in deep shit. Well, it turns out that Auburn has 2. It looks that way. I'm going to be very curious to see how they do in the conference games. But Maddie Penta, who's the right-hander, the freshman, and then Sydney. Shelby Lowe, the left-hander. Both of those girls have been. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. They've both been filthy as hell. I know that Maddie had some trouble in the first game against South Carolina, which would have been her first SEC. I know it wasn't an official SEC game, but it was an SEC opponent. She was a little wobbly, but you got to have the pitching, man, and it sure looks like Mickey's got the pitching. I can't guarantee they're going to be this way all year against the best SEC teams, but you don't have to worry about any one and dones in college softball. Those girls are going to be here a while, so they're going to be filthy for a while. DFY says I went to all 3 games against Oklahoma, talking about the College World Series, final or the actual College World Series best of 3 that went on in, was that 2016, I think? And Emily Carasoni homering to win game 2, I think it was. That to me, that's probably top 10 sports moments I've ever seen myself. I mean, just absolutely insane. Like, kick 6 is on a different level, but short of kick 6, it was right there. Chris M agrees that Auburn's pitching situation is quite filthy. Shelby had 12 Ks last night. Now, to be fair, Auburn's playing Murray State last night and then Iopui today, but, Valley Tiger says Penta strikes out Jay Lee on 3 pitches. I would never give a pitcher 3 pitches because, you never know, but Jay Lee is on the rundown thinking that he's going to hit Maddie Penta, like he's going to just crush her, like he's going to knock the ball out of the park or something, is so wildly stupid. Like, I can't even believe he actually says it. I don't know as though Mickey would ever go for that the way that Coach Myers did, because Coach Myers really did it. Dana from the OA News did not have as much bravado as Jay Lee did about it, but she thought she could hit Michaela. Actually, it started out with me and Dana. She said you could pick the pitcher. And I said, I'll take Michaela because I knew she threw harder. And so, unfortunately, on the day that I was supposed to be there to watch it all happen, my sister had passed away. So I was up at her funeral, and they did it, I think the day of my sister's funeral, actually. But I saw it on video, and Michaela went up there and struck out Dana. I think it was on 4 pitches. I think Dana was able to foul one off on a bunt. But anyway, Jay Lee thinks he's going to go up there and just rake against Maddie Penta if it were to happen, and it's funny to me. I mean, it would just – I would have to turn that – he would strike out. He wouldn't touch the ball, and I would love for that to be a GIF that I would put on my profile so that would just loop in perpetuity for everyone to see that Jay Lee ain't what he was 20 years ago. Good God. Mobile alum says, are we going to see any coaching changes with girls basketball? Yeah, I think it's going to have to happen. I think it's going to have to happen. Coach Flo's obviously in peril of going winless in the SEC, and that's just not I'm of the opinion that Auburn should be really good in girls basketball or women's basketball. I mean, we've seen it done. Joe obviously had them at a high level for a long time. Nell had him at a high level for a period of time. Maybe 2 years they were really good, and she had been building up to then. You know, and Flo, I didn't think it was a bad hire. I like the way that what she had been doing at Georgetown before she was hired here, but I don't know. It just hasn't worked out here lately. Mobile alum says it's so sad because they used to be so good. Yeah, I know, man. I mean, no one's cheering against Flo because she's a likable person, but it's just not working. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, when you go winless, I mean, what? You know what I mean? Pocket Watch says Flo is gone. I got to believe that. There's been some pushing on the bunker for Chad Pruitt to get that job. Chad Pruitt, of course, coached girls basketball when he was at Lee Scott Academy, won several state titles doing that. And no one's doubting that Chad Pruitt is a really good coach. But Chad Pruitt also was a finalist for the job at Samford last year. They went to Bucky. And I don't have every reason to believe that Chad's going to be a head coach of a men's program before too long. So I'm not going to rule anything out. I'd have to ask Chad about it. But I feel like he's awfully close to getting a men's job right now. And it seems like that's kind of where he's headed. But, whatever. Let's see. Pocket Watch says, now we have a swimming issue, which is on Green. But that's his first hire, so I'm less concerned with an issue there. Yeah. I forgot the swimming coach's name. I thought he was going to be good. He had come over from, I think, NC State. I'm going back a few years here. My thought, he had done pretty well there. But, they're not even really a factor in swimming at this point, which is a little bit weird. But I'm glad nobody brought up David Marsh. I'm really bitter about that. I'm telling you, that's a hill that I will die on. Because Richard Quick was going to be good. He was already good. He had taken what David had done, and he was starting to build on it. They were still going to be really good. And then he passed away. And that's when things kind of hit the skids. Pocket Watch reminds us this is the first time in Auburn history that Auburn has been winless in SEC women's basketball. I just don't, I'm with you. Women's basketball at Auburn has a tradition, has a history of being good, at least good, if not great. Canoe Man says, so Green shared a pool with the swimming coach. Actually, somebody's going to get them a shout out on the next rundown. It is going to be Zifnab. It was I think it was a thread about what's going to happen with the women's basketball coach. And he said, without knowing who ADAG had shared a pool with, it'd be pure speculation. Mobile Lem says our question program is freaking world class. Yes, Coach Williams knows what he's doing. There's no doubt about that. The guy's an absolute Hall of Famer. Frank G says, tell us more about David Marsh. David Marsh, the swim coach at Auburn, not the first great swim coach, the second great swim coach at Auburn, behind Richard Quick. He learned under Richard Quick. And David Marsh did an outstanding job at Auburn. No one's arguing that. He was an A-plus coach, an A-plus recruiter, an A-plus developer of talent. He was, truly a Hall of Fame coach, no doubt about that. But at some point, he started getting this idea in his head that he should be, or actually was, as important as the football coach at Auburn. And, I got to be careful because I'm married to a girl who was a college scholarship athlete. So I'm not sitting here shitting on the idea of college of women's athletics or Olympic sports not being important. I like them too, but you're never going to be the football coach at Auburn. It's all about football. Even BP knows that. He's fine with it because he's doing his thing. He don't worry about it. Number 19 says Maddie Penna has faced and struck out all 11 batters. I mean, so she's basically going Kerry Wood, right? Kerry Wood 98 is essentially what she's doing right now. If you remember, Kerry Wood was pitching against the Astros in 1998 when he struck out, was it 21 or 20? And half those at-bats, the Astros are walking back to the dugout going, I don't know how anyone's going to hit that shit. mean, he was, missing bats by this much, throwing that slurve that eventually blew his elbow out, but still really good. Mobile Alum says, big question, will Knicks start this season? Yeah. There are some other people. Mike G from the War Report is one of them who thinks that DD is going to be able to jump in there and kind of jumble that up a little bit, but I'm just not sure. No, in fact, I'm fairly sure that won't happen. I think Bo's going to start for sure, barring some kind of injury. Anyway, back on David Marsh, just real quick. I think he got an inflated sense of not necessarily self-worth, but like program's worth. And him and Jay Jacobs didn't quite get along. Although, a lot of the David Marsh White Knighters blame Jay for a lot of that. And you guys know I'm no defender of Jay Jacobs, but I think that was unfair. I think Jay was just being realistic. DFY says, I had class with several swimmers. Not going to lie, the female swimmer's shoulders intimidated me, yes. Margaret Holzer had some big shoulders, for sure. Very fit young lady. Kirsty, who was probably the most decorated of all of them, who won a gold medal in the Olympics representing Zimbabwe. I never thought of her as having huge shoulders, though. She's a very thin girl. Also, Margaret Holzer, one of the great athletes in Huntsville history, right? I mean, Condridge Holloway is probably number one, but Margaret Holzer is really good. Oh, there's no doubt. Hey, you guys can blame me for that David Marsh thing, but, I'll tell you what, I really prayed about it and thought about it a lot. And, we just had to do what we had to do. Now, this I did not know. Frank G says there was beef between JJ and David Marsh going back to when they were student athletes at Auburn. See, I did not know that. I've never sat down. You guys should know that, like, the relationship I had with Jay Jacobs was not the kind where I would sit down and say, Jay, tell me about your relationship with David Marsh. Like, I just try to get my information and get the hell away from him. Because Jay creeped me out. After he started doing the whole questioning me about Mary's role in the Catholic Church, I was pretty much done. So you pray to Mary? No, Jay, we don't pray to Mary. We pray for her intercession because we see her as a really, really awesome person, and we would love for her to, if she would like to or can, put in a good word. But we know that she's not judge and jury. That's somebody else's job. But we do pray for her intercession. I, JG, pray for her intercession every time I'm in the church. I kneel before her feet at the church, and I pray for her intercession. But I do not pray to her. There's a distinction. Jay did not understand that, and he thought he knew more about it than I did. All right. Hornatius says, Mary Swimmer, if you want to produce athletic kids, thank you for that. I married a field hockey player. We had an athletic kid. Sometimes. Canoe Man says, so Marsh was... I know you're not good. I know you're not satisfied, but are you good? Those are the old days, man. It's been a fun show. This reminds me of a summer show. Although we stayed pretty much on, we stayed on topic as far as Auburn goes, though. It's been a pleasure. Blake Robinson says, to be fair, we're all swimmers before we were born. Frank G says, Canoe Man, No Marsh is one of the best swim coaches in the world. I don't know if that's true at the moment, but he certainly was, And at the time he was at Auburn, he was as good as anyone in the world. Like, it wasn't just he was the best in college athletics; he was the best in the world. Number 19 says Aspen Godwin, the catcher from Daphne, Alabama. Although to hear her talk, and I had just interviewed her for the first time the other day, you wouldn't necessarily think she was from Daphne. She didn't have a Daphne accent, or what I thought would be a Daphne accent, but she apparently has hit a home run, and Auburn is now up 1-0 on Iupui. I was a little alarmed, though. Auburn beat Murray State yesterday by a score of 1-0 in the first game and then 3-1 in the second game, which to me is not a lot of runs against a team like Murray State. And then you see this team today, they're playing Iupui, and they've got one run. To me, this bodes poorly for Auburn's ability to score runs against the upgraded pitching in the SEC, but they did manage to score 5 against South Carolina, and they won the first game too. So Frank G says, shout out to UK women for winning the swimming, their first SEC title. That's outstanding. Back when I was at UK, they were just basically happy to compete. And now they're champs. How about that? But, I don't think there was any way to save David Marsh. I don't think there was any way to keep David Marsh, is what I meant to say. I think that he was just like, he had this inflated sense of self-worth. Again, I think he's as good a coach as you'll ever see in any sport. He's like the Greg Williams, who was Auburn's outstanding equestrian coach. He is like the Greg Williams of swimming, or he was at the time. So that's not to say he was overrated as a coach. He was not. He was, whatever word you want to use for superlatives, that's how good he was. But at the same time, I think he started thinking he should get everything that the football coach got, which is never going to be the case. And so I think it was a FUBAR situation. I think he had to go. There's a lot of people to this day, even today, that think that it's JJ's fault that David Marsh left and Auburn's swimming program is in the shitter. I don't think Jay made a mistake, and I also think everything was going to be fine because Richard Quick was going to be just as good, but he died. He got a brain tumor, and he died. And it sucks, and everybody who knew Richard Quick is still sick to their stomach about it because he was such a good dude, in addition to being a great coach. So anyway, I have always kind of wanted to write a story about that, but I just don't know if anybody gives a shit. And, it's old news. But Richard Quick was as good as David Marsh. It's a fact. I don't know if we can fight about it or whatever. It's just like what Michael Jordan said in The Last Dance. He goes, hey, man, you can show me anything you want. There's nothing you're going to show me that's going to tell me anything other than Isaiah Thomas was an asshole. You can show me anything you want. My favorite part of the whole Last Dance, man, was that little exchange. They were talking about how the Pistons walked off the court after the 91. I think it was the 91 or 92 playoffs. And the Bulls were about to clinch it. And with like a minute left, the Pistons walked off the court because they're a bunch of bitches, just like Horace Grant said. And Michael Jordan was ragging on Isaiah. And Isaiah, just how Isaiah is like, that's not how it happened. There was just a way that things worked back then, and that's what we did. That's what the Celtics did to us, and that's what we did to the Bulls, and that's just how things work. And Michael Jordan's like, bullshit. God, I hate Isaiah Thomas. There's nobody I hate more than Isaiah Thomas. I don't know. I hate him more than I hate Christian Laettner, and I really hate Christian Laettner. It's awful. Canoe Man says you absolutely should write a story about that. Seriously, it would be a great read. Hornatius says he'll read it on the pooper. My man. I have thought about writing that. I just don't know. It's hard. It's hard to kind of picture what the thesis of that would be. It would be like, hey man, in 2006, Auburn's swim program was going to be fine, and then Richard Quick died, and it really sucked. It just. What have you accomplished, Jay? I don't know. Because it kind of throws Brett Hawker under the bus, and it throws the current coach under the bus, and I don't know. So I'll just sit here on the brain drain and tell you guys. What else we got? AU Taxman with the truest statement that's been made today. Isaiah Thomas made a career out of falling up after the NBA. You're absolutely right. He's a terrible coach. He's a terrible GM. He's a terrible commentator. And he's a goob anyway. He was a great college player. He was a good NBA player who everybody hated. That's why he wasn't on the dream team. He's crying about why he wasn't included because everybody hated him. And the reason that he was so good in the NBA is he was just kind of like right dude at the right time, right? He was playing with the Pistons when they were really good. 89, 90, 91. They had Joe Dumars. They had Rodman as a young guy. They had Sally. They had Mark Aguirre, like an aging Mark McGuire, but still a good one. They had Vinnie Johnson at that point. some really good players, and he was a good player. I don't know who the equivalent would be now. Maybe Goran Dragic, somebody like that. If Goran Dragic was the point guard for the frickin' Warriors or something like that. Brad E says, what's everyone drinking? I'm drinking Stag Jr., and it's tearing me up, honestly. It's 131 proof. You can see I haven't had a lot, but, man, this stuff hits hard. Canoe Man, with another great statement, says the Dream Team would not have been as good with Isaiah because he would have destroyed team chemistry. Yeah, that was the argument Jordan made, and I completely agree. That team had great chemistry as it stood, and they weren't lacking at point guard. I mean, you had Stockton. So why are you worried about that? Ravine says that was a nasty group, the Detroit Pistons. Yeah, they had brought back like the really old school type of ball. Just as the NBA was starting to kind of adjust a little bit, the Bulls were, at least prior to when they were getting knocked down by the Pistons, they were kind of soft. They were kind of a finesse team, right? And I think the NBA is kind of a finesse league now, and I think that probably starts with the Bulls, because the Celtics certainly weren't. And the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, were kind of softy. I mean, not they weren't mentally soft, but they weren't rough. The Pistons were rough. The Knicks were the next team that were really rough with John Starks and Ewing and Charles Oakley and Anthony Mason. They were rough as hell. I don't know. Are there rough teams anymore? I can't really think of a team that's like really rough. It's been a while. I did not like the Pistons, and it was really mostly because of Isaiah Thomas, because I didn't like him at all. DFY says, finally joined the bunker, JGT. Hey, man. I'm glad to hear that, bro. That's what I like to hear. The bunker is, it's always going, man. There's funny stuff on there, like, constantly. We have great stuff. And I do want to give a shout-out to Knotted Shorts for his Saturday morning coffee thread today. Had a lot of titular points of entry in that thread. And I was hoping that he was going to get me a number, but he didn't do it. Blake R. says he hated John Starks, who was the point guard, the very, very pugnacious point guard of the New York Knicks, circa 1994. He actually was a good story, though. I didn't like him either, but he had kind of worked his way back from anonymity to be that guy. It was not all given to him at all. So good for him for fighting through that. Canoe Man says he hated the Pistons, the entire freaking team.
I want to wrestle you so freaking bad.
Ravine says one thing that put a stop to that style of play, talking about that rough, aggressive play, was the flagrant fouls and technical foul season limits. Yeah. Rasheed Wallace, right? It almost felt like they were legislating Rasheed Wallace, kind of like creating rules to like mitigate him a little bit. And I have interviewed Rasheed Wallace, and he's really a fine dude. Like, I know he deserved his technicals and shit, but Frank G says the guys from TNT, who are great analysts, love those guys. We're talking about NBA players lasting longer these days because defenses basically don't wear down players as quickly, right? You don't just kill guys anymore. Like the hack-a-shack concept is really not a thing anymore. Blake says, yeah, the Pistons were hated by everybody. LOL. Yeah, that was kind of my view, too. I had like one friend who liked the Pistons, and I looked down on him for being – it's kind of like when – well, never mind. I was going to make a political statement, but – Mobile Alum says, how far Alabama get in the tournament? I say Sweet 16. They get matched up against some team like by the way, the baseball game is now final. Auburn lost that one to the Baylor Bears by a score of 12-6. That means Auburn made a little bit of a rally there late. Yeah, they scored 3 runs in the 9th, but still not enough. They ended up with 6 runs on 9 hits. 12 runners left on base versus 5 for Baylor. That's part of the story. Fitz ends up giving up 6 earnings and 4 1/3, and then Fuller gave up 5 earnings and 1 2/3. So that's not great. Peyton Glavin jumped in late in mop-up duty, more or less, and did a nice job. 0 earnings, 1 hit, and 3 innings pitched. So good. I was asking about Peyton Glavin the other day. That's one that's going to sting for Butch. She's going to feel like they shouldn't have been beat like that, but, things like that happen sometimes. Ball don't lie. It's a classic Rasheed Wallace statement. Mobile alum says, Sweet 16 JG, really? Yeah, I mean, they have tons of experience. I'm talking about Alabama. I don't really like spending much time talking about Alabama, but since you asked, I feel obligated to answer. They have a lot of experience, and the experience goes a long way when you come to the NCAA tournament. I know they lay an egg the other day against Arkansas, but they're pretty good, man. Herbert Jones is super experienced. John Petty is super experienced. Shackelford is an excellent player. I don't know. I like their team. I think they're really good. They'll probably end up running into a buzzsaw of some kind, though. I'm trying to look at who the best teams are here. Not sure how to do that. Like, they're not going to beat Michigan, Baylor, Gonzaga. So they'll end up facing off with somebody like a Virginia or like a San Diego State, and they'll lose in the Sweet 16. By the way, San Diego State, they're awesome. Again, 18-4. It was my ambition as a youngster to be a San Diego State Aztec. I grew up. That was the closest college to where I grew up in San Diego, and we used to go to like summer camps there and shit. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be there. And then my dad moved us to Tulsa, and I changed everything. But whatever. DFY says he likes Herb Jones. He's a good player. I think everybody at this point really likes guys that stay in school that long and get better all the time, and he's certainly a guy that's done that, and he's a great defensive player. He's a good player in general, but he's a great defensive player. Stoop Up thinks that Alabama's going to catch a team like Michigan, coached by Juwan Howard, and the threes won't fall, and that'll be a wrap. I don't think anyone on this show right now is going to be upset if that happens. Not a one. Nobody. Brad E says, cool campus. I think you're talking about San Diego State up on the hill. Yes, he is talking about San Diego State up on the hill. Didn't know you're a Californian. I was born in Kentucky, and then my dad, who was a Navy physician at the time, got moved out to California 2 separate times. We went to San Diego, then we moved to Washington, D.C. for like 9 months, and then we moved back to San Diego. And then ended up going to high school in Tulsa because my dad got out of the Navy, and some of his friends had started up a practice in Tulsa for whatever reason, so I ended up out there. But I don't really know where I'm from. I mean, I was born in Kentucky. I went to college in Kentucky, met my girl. She's in Kentucky. She's a Kentucky girl. So generally, I think I'm a Kentucky guy. But shit, I probably spent almost my entire adult life in Alabama. So I don't know. I'm kind of from Alabama, too. Let's see. Mobile Alum says, you said earlier that Sharif Cooper stays. What do you base it on? Inside info? No, not inside info. Number 19, I'm going to get to here in just a second. But it's more about, like, he just has some really big holes in his game, right? His three-point shooting's terrible. His defense is bad. I know you're going to think, NBA defense? Yeah, kind of. I mean, you don't have to be a great defender to be a good NBA player, but he's an undersized point guard who can't shoot the three and is a poor defender. Like, I think he's being overrated a little bit. And I don't mean overrated from an NBA draft perspective, not as a college freshman perspective. He's lights out. He's unbelievable. But if you're an NBA team, you're going to say, well, we're going to have to restart his shot. We're going to have to basically rebuild his shot. Plus, his defense is not very good, which is kind of like what Markelle Fultz was or is, and he's been a washout. And so I don't know, man. Just my opinion. Number 19 says Matty Penna has now struck out 15 consecutive batters. Oh, boy. Boise's great. Jumps in to say Jay only gives inside info to platinum members. Hey, now. Yes, we do we call it the Platinum Insiders Podcast on Monday mornings. It drops on the Platinum board, and it's always a pleasure doing that. Bo is great. Is obviously one of our longtime Platinum members, and it's a pleasure being at your service, answering your call anytime you call. And, of course, all Platinum members have a hotline to my phone, and I try to answer questions within 15 minutes, 30 minutes at the most. So number 19 was pointing out that Matty Penna keeps striking out all these batters, to which point Hornatius says, please stop jinxing it. To which number 19 comes back and says, I mean, I've been jinxing it since the second inning. I don't think it's working. So I just think Sharif, got two big holes in his game that matter in the NBA, and then also his family has money. Like his dad Omar has money. Like they're not. You hear a lot of kids say, "Well, I got to go pro to help my mom or help my dad or help my family, and we don't have any money." Like he can't say that with a straight face. It's not true. So, yeah, I think that's part of it too that people overlook. I mean, Omar is a smart guy and he knows basketball and he's an enterprising person, but at the same time, I mean, they know Jabari. They're good. They're friends. They've played together a lot. Like he knows that when Jabari gets to Auburn, I mean, that's going to be a dude that Sharif dishes the ball to, and that guy's going to do something crazy. Like it's just a great. I don't know. I think he's going to be back, but we'll see. Mobile Alum says, what do I have to do to become a platinum member? I'm going to leave that one to you, Bo. Is great. He's kind of our sergeant at arms of the platinum crew, and he'll let you know. I hope that he hope he doesn't take advantage of the situation. All right, I'll be honest with you, Mobile Alum. There's not a platinum thing, really. There's not an official platinum thing. It's kind of a joke. It's a meme. But there are certain people that kind of get treated that way, one way or another. And Bo Is Great is one of them. There's some others on here. I mean, Hornatius would be one in that group. Certainly. Chris Majors will be one. Considering I play basketball with his son, and he beat me, I think, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. I don't let it define me. I don't let it define my basketball game. Stu Pup as well. Pocket Watch jumping in earlier about where I'm from. He says, your family is or was cornbread mafia in Kentucky. So you should probably roll with that, pride and all. God bless. I wish that were true. Pocket Watch, I did come clean, though. Yeah, my family, I guess, they are from Kentucky, but they're from rural Kentucky, actually, from Marion County, Kentucky. Lebanon, Kentucky is where my people are from, and that was a big time area for spirits. That's actually the county where Maker's Mark is from. They're in Loretto, which is not Lebanon, but it is Marion County. And then Yellowstone Bourbon is from Lebanon County as well, from Marion County as well. That's actually in Lebanon. My granddad was I take it back. My great granddad was a noted. I better just not talk about that. I'm afraid somebody will get on here and put two and two together or something. I will say my great granddad ran a juke joint, and he also may have been involved with the illegal production and logistical maneuvering of moonshine. May have been, was accused of having been. Get you some of that. Chris M says, oh, this is even worse. I'm disappointed if a 19-year-old number 19 junior is schooling you in hoops. He ain't great. Yeah, well, now you're making it worse because that was like 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, whatever. DFY says, love Lebanon. Got some good friends from Central Kentucky. Yeah, one of them's right here, buddy. Well, no, I was actually born in Louisville, which is not Central Kentucky, but went to college there, and a lot of my friends are from there. And again, I feel like my people are from Lebanon. So that's Marion County. Also, Springfield's near there. Good people there. And then you start getting toward Danville, where my dad went to college, at Center College. And then, yeah, lots of good people in there. Hornatius knows how to use the right words, though. He says the revenuers are watching, Jay. Yes, there was a revenuer in Kentucky named Big Six Henderson, and he may or may not have been involved with my great-grandfather. Let's see if Big Six Henderson has a page. Ooh, somebody wrote a story about him in the Bowling Green paper. I'll just make that up. There he is. Here's what it says about him. William Big Six Henderson struck fear in any man throughout Kentucky who ever thought about making an untaxed whiskey. In his 28-year career as a federal agent, he busted up about 5,000 stills and sent 5,600 moonshiners to jail. According to his personal daily record, he became so famous that some shiners painted Big Six on the sides of the barrels they produced. Some even named their children after him. There's a Big Six wine being marketed about a fictitious bootlegger in the 1920s. It's a made-up story. The real Big Six would have had him in handcuffs before sunset. How about that? Interesting. I actually read I want to say, I don't know if you guys still do this. Back when I was an aspiring sports writer, I'm now a over-the-hill sports writer. When I was young, they had these things called The Greatest American Sports Writing. It was a book, like a paperback book they would produce every year. It would have like the greatest sports writing in the year of 1992 or 1993. And in one of those years, they had a profile of Big Six Henderson. I thought it was a very liberal take of what sports was. But, yeah, there was one in there, and the greatest sports writing about Big Six Henderson, and about when he died, the number of former moonshiners who went to his funeral was shocking. You know, you almost kind of, you get to a point where, you know, you love your enemies. You know, you just, it reminds you of like when the coyote, it's the sheepdog and the chicken in the Warner Brothers cartoons that would both just clock in and clock out. And they would like raise hell with each other, and then they would clock out at 5 o'clock and just say, hey man, see you tomorrow. You just get used to them, you know. You get used to your adversaries and you miss them. It's kind of like Chuck Galena used to be. He used to be the SID for Auburn basketball, and I used to go round and round with him fighting about him, about this, that, and the other thing. And now that he's retired from Auburn, and I miss him. I was just texting him a couple days ago, trying to get him some stuff. Trying to get something from him, I should say. Boise says, I'm sorry, Bo is great, says Jay's great-granddaddy put apples in his moonshine. How dare you? Mobile alum says, you get your bourbon drinker chops honestly. I'm just saying. Just saying. Yeah, how about that? All right. I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys, for reals. Hornatius says, Jay's family made that poisonous bathtub gin. Blinded many a folk. How dare you, man? They would never do that. The Tates are not about that. It's actually the Lees, but whatever. I'm going to have to read more about Big Six Henderson. That's pretty cool. They're still writing songs about that. You know, stories and songs. He looks like a pretty tough dude, too. I'll bet that man's been shot at more than once or twice. I mean, he's dead now, but I'm sure he was shot at a bunch of times. You know, crazy things happen when you're a revenuer. Apparently, Hornatius knows the truth. I do want to give a shout out to all of our badass super chatters, many of whom are gone, but some of whom are still here. Canoe Man is still here. Thank you, sir. Ryan S., who I think's gone. Crocky Poo left as well. Hornatius, thank you as always, brother. Sam H., I don't think you're still here, but we love you. Fat Crack, I hope he sent me let's see if he sent me a direct message on the bunker. I hope he did. Not yet, but if you're still here, please do. I'd love to get hooked up with you. You can play with some of our badasses. Stu Pup, keeping the streak alive. Absolute stud. Corey Dub, who I know is gone for sure. He's probably out there enjoying that delicious Connecticut sausage. D Lucky. Hope D Lucky Jr. is having some great success on the basketball circuit. Brad E., we call him E or Easterwood from Huntsville. And Blake R. in that outstanding outfit there that I'm jealous of. I wish I had a white jacket like that. What a fucking stud. Also, looks like we have our friend Becky watching. She says, I don't think the revenuers are listening today. I know. I don't know if Big Six were alive, which he's not, but if he was, I don't think he would be on the show, would he? Ravine jumping in. Look at this. We just love having Ravine here, period. But he super chats today and says, great show, JG. Thanks for all that you do. I'm giving you a fist bump virtually. Thank you, Ravine. We love having you here, bro. If you guys are drinking Stag Junior tonight, I caution you to drink that cautiously. Be very careful. This stuff, it hits hard. At 131 proof, you better be real careful. And you also better be sure you got some food in your belly. What's next for JG? I'm glad you asked. We're going to go to one of my favorite places on earth. We're going to go to Publix. We got a few groceries we got to pick up. And I like Publix because there's always soccer moms there. Yeah, if you go at regular hours, I think this would be a regular hour, you're almost guaranteed to see at least 3 hot soccer moms, which is great. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of that. Always age appropriate, though, for some reason. I know they have a lot of friends. Well, not really friends, but associates that are always like looking at like 20-year-old chicks. I like age appropriate. I like 45 to 55-year-old chicks. That's just me, though, guys. I'm just rambling at the hip. And then we're going to go, we're going out to dinner with my mom. And I'm very appreciative of my mom. She let me borrow her car this week because I wrecked mine. Well, I didn't wreck it. The deer that ran into my car wrecked it. Hopefully they don't total it out, guys. It would be upsetting if that happened, but whatever. There's bigger problems in the world. Canoe Man says, hot soccer moms are a win. I'm so glad that we're on the same page with that one, buddy. Something better than a hot American soccer mom. Absolutely. All right, so we'll wrap it up there, guys. Hornatius, I'm going to miss you asking these questions, bro, but I'll continue with it in my head. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about basketball today. We talked about football. We talked about equestrian. We talked about swimming. We talked about Coach Flo's situation. We talked about Joe Champy. We talked about revenuers. We talked about bourbon. We talked about moonshine. We talked about Marion County, Kentucky. We also delved into Big Six Henderson. And we also talked about Stagg Jr. By the way, I don't know. There's probably not many of you guys that are like actually in Montgomery or whatever because you guys have probably moved on in your lives to bigger and better places. But if you do go to the Tipping Point, I bet you there's at least one person on the show right now who's familiar with the Tipping Point. It is the bar in my little community here, which rumor has it that our friend Becky's going to be moving in here pretty soon. But there either is, well, for me there is. I don't know if for you there would be, but they know how to make a brain drain. That's an actual drink now. We formulated it to brain drain specifications. And there is a brain drain drink at the Tipping Point. I know Laura knows how to make it. She's going to be the blonde hair girl with kind of like shoulder length blonde hair. She knows how to make it. And Justin, who's the really tall guy, he's like the manager of the whole place, but he's an absolute bar wizard. If you see one of those two, tell him you want a brain drain. I'm going to probably get one tonight myself. I had one last night as well. We're just calling it the brain drain. If we're going to do our tasting night here at some point in April or May, we can all be outside and everything's good and we don't have to worry about COVID and stuff. And we'll definitely have some brain drains available at that point too. Okay. So, by the way, before we go, number 19, what's the strikeout situation for Matty P? I want to know. I'm going to go ahead and click off this Auburn, Tennessee basketball and look at the softball game here. Where is you? Have they not updated these stats? No, they have. Let's see. Okay, so, yeah, it looks like Manny Penn is still going because Iupui as a team is 0 for 16 at the plate with 16 strikeouts. No walks. So they haven't had a base runner on either. Yeah. Officially, Matty Penn is 5 1/3, 0 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, 16 strikeouts. 16 batters faced, and 78 pitches. I mean, it's funny in a way, right? For the season currently, Matty Penna has 31 1/3 innings pitched, 12 hits allowed, 4 earnies, 48 Ks, and 12 walks. Good God, she's a freshman, guys. This is her 5th start of her college career. And Shelby Lowe's numbers are on par with this. Hey. Anybody want to see the pug? What's up, Mav? The pug is in here. I do want to get Shelby Lowe's updated real quick. Shelby Lowe has thrown 16 innings, 12 hits, 1 walk, 25 strikeouts. Okay. Maddie Penna, she has a batting average against of 203. It's out of control, guys. Maddie Penna is 133 prior to this game. I would say that's dropped a little bit. Oh, did I jinx it? Did she give up something? Did she walk somebody? I can't tell. She's at 5 1/3 now with 16 strikeouts, so something funky. Nope. 0 for 17, so she must have had a ground out or something. Yeah, fly out to center field, sorry. All right, so 17 batters, 16 strikeouts, and 1 fly out. Oh, my goodness. Auburn is up 5-0 over Iapui right now in the softball world. And again, baseball lost 12-6. I'm going to say it's at Baylor, although they would not believe that. They're in Texas. All right, we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Appreciate you all being part of the show. We've already shouted out our super chatters. We love all you guys so much. Ravine, you in particular, buddy. Well, we love all you guys. Glad to have you on there, though, Ravine. No calls today, but that's cool. We didn't need them, although we would have loved to have them. It is kind of late in the season. It's been kind of a disappointing season, but this was not a disappointing game. Again, Auburn over Tennessee 77-72 in a game that I thought was expertly coached and expertly played, in my opinion. Lots of good things going on with that game today. So, let's see. Next game is going to be the Alabama game on Tuesday. We'll play that one by ear. And for those of you in Mobile, we're going to tentatively think about doing a rundown on Friday night, March the 5th. And me and administrative assistant would do the show. Theoretically, we would do the show, and then we would come home for the game on Saturday at noon. We'll definitely let you know in the bunker if that's going to be a 100% go. All right, guys. Peace out. Let's make some great decisions tonight. If you're going to drink tonight, make sure you stay hydrated and give the keys to somebody who's sober, please. All right? That's my request. All right? 2C again. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. Be good out there. Peace. Love you guys.